OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
All right, it's 7:31. You're very welcome along to OTB AM. It's Ger and Shane with you all the way through until 10. If you want to get in touch, we'd love to hear from you. 087 918 180 is the WhatsApp number. Or, of course, you can always leave a comment on the YouTube stream. Or the hashtag is OTBAM, or we're at Off the Ball AM. Is it 087 or 086? It's 087, isn't it?
That rings a bell.
I mean, I've only been saying it every day for 5 years.
087, yeah.
But, you know, sometimes.
It sounds right. Let's get.
How are you, Shane?
Keeping well.
Yeah.
A lot of sport last night, and I was at the Fontaine's DC gig as well, which was rowdy, as you can imagine. Yeah. Those gigs tend to be fairly busy.
Yeah. Where was it?
It was in the Vicar Street.
Right.
Yeah. I was excellent gig. It's sheer pandemonium. I found myself kind of moving towards the front of the stage towards the end. I just wanted to get the attention of Conor Curley, one of the lead guitarists who's Monaghan man. Used to play football with him growing up.
I'm with the band, says Shane.
Yeah, of course.
I know. No, he definitely knows me. No, he does. What?
Yeah.
What? Where's he going? Why? What?
Got the fist bump, but it came at a cost. Ended up in the mosh pit kind of towards the last couple of songs. Boys in the Better Land and all the rest. And that was an experience. Left there profusely sweating.
Right.
But, I mean, felt like a workout. It was
felt
good.
alive.
I felt alive.
Yeah.
I came home and then I could watch the highlights of the matches.
And then you couldn't sleep until 2 o'clock.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what happens. But fun. It's silly season. We're into December now, Ger. So all of this is passable.
On tomorrow night's Off the Ball, I'm interviewing Luke McManus, who is the director and writer of the new documentary North Circular, which is it's in cinemas from tomorrow, and it's absolutely amazing. I watched it last night, and there's a scene where they're actually in Dalymount. And the guy who leads the chants, I don't know his name, I probably should know his name, and it came up in the credits afterwards, was there, and they just had this amazing scene where he's doing the B, give me an O, give me an H, give me a, and my wife's like, what are they saying? And it's Boas, and then the chant comes up, and then a goal gets scored, and he's like running out of the way because everybody's cowering in front of the mosh pit as the goal happens, and it's the same energy as the Fontaine's DC.
It is. A lot of the fans, there's a crossover there with fans. Of course, Fontaine's DC sponsoring Bows jerseys as well, and it is pure madness. It felt like a football match. It actually did, and the chants are starting to go as well. Green being the lead singer, so it was proper football match experience.
They have a cult-like following, but it's much bigger than a cult.
Yeah, 100%. You don't say anything bad about Fontaine's DC, or you'll have.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. This isn't Marcus Rashford, lads.
Yeah. It'd be kind of like saying something bad about Taylor Swift or Harry Styles or something. You'll be absolutely hounded off Twitter.
Have you done any of that before?
Picking on pop stars.
Is there anything bad about? I don't know. Like, is Taylor Swift? Is there anything you would say?
Go on, say it.
What would you say?
I don't know what you'd say. Yeah.
Oh, look at this.
Her music is bland.
Look at this very successful person doing this thing that she's very successful at.
Yeah, fair play to her.
Oh, it's terrible for society, isn't it?
More power to her.
Yeah, like, I mean, who's getting pissed off at Harry Styles?
Yeah, exactly.
What's wrong with y'all?
I thought you were going to double down there. You're taking your Rashford abuse, so you were going to take some Harry Styles abuse today as well. But no, fair play. You've left it.
I see that. This is the latest issue in English football. Is like, oh, Raheem Sterling, he's been a key player every game, every big game. When the pressure's been on, he's turned to Raheem, and Raheem has delivered in the tournaments. But he's not quite in as good form as everybody else.
Yeah, don't you have to pick players in form in the World Cup? I can't believe there's even the discussion that Rashford might not play the last 16 game.
It's hard to know. Like, if you dance with the one who brung you.
Yeah, well, he scored 2 goals. He scored 3 goals, in the tournament. 2 goals in their last game. Put him in the team.
I mean, you probably do feel like you have to put him in the team. I guess from, like, Joe Cole has the correct answer in all this. He'll use them all at some point over the course of the game. Which is like, with 5 subs, he probably will.
He probably will, but
he's not making any defensive subs. He's not changing out the goalkeeper unless there's an injury. So he can use all of the players at some point. And your role today, your job now, is to be a good substitute.
Yeah. Tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be a substitute. You've got to, but that sets the tone. Your starting team sets the tone. Play with Rashford, a man with confidence. That's going to set the tone against Senegal. You got to do it. Speaking of Senegal, Ger, the last team to be knocked out of a World Cup on yellow cards, Senegal 2018.
All right.
Colombia. So they were level with Colombia on points, goal difference, goals scored. Head-to-head was 2-2 in their group game. And Senegal had 6 yellow cards. Colombia had 4. So Colombia, of course, famously go on to play England and lose on penalties in the 2018 World Cup last 16. So I was just chatting to Pater Brannock from New Stop Breakfast. He'd reminded me of that over coffee this morning. And I was like, yeah, Jesus, I forgot about that. And last night we almost had the carnage situation where Poland and Mexico would have had to draw lots. If Poland 2 more yellow cards?
Am I the only one who actually wants to see the physical drawing of the lots?
I mean, that would have been just
like how does it work? What are they actually doing? Is it a coin toss? And they say draw lots because it's like, oh, we need to somehow pretend that we're like from the Greek era. We're going to draw lots.
I mean, and it could be a weighted coin. There's like people's trust of FIFA is sketchy at the best of times. I think if they were starting to draw lots to decide who stays in the tournament and who goes, I mean,
now if it was a drawing competition where you get your best drawer from both teams
to paint something.
Yeah, like single line drawing, right?
Oh, yeah.
You got 1 minute to draw like.
Oh, draw lots as in just draw lots of stuff.
Yeah, Messi. This is whoever has the best likeness to this picture of Leo Messi. Go.
Yeah.
I mean, who's not watching that?
I'd be up for that. I'd actually like to see a crossbar challenge, and like maybe from like between the halfway line and the edge of the box, something like that. Just like five kicks each.
They're going to be in different parts
but,
of the world.
But I mean, they can.
You could do that though.
You could still do it.
You could like footage in one stadium, footage in the other stadium.
Yeah.
Get everybody back out.
100%.
And everybody in the squad has to have a go, including the managers.
Yeah, or even like a wheelbarrow race or something. Or the managers have to sprint from one side of the pitch to the other, and whoever does it faster. Anything's better than drawing lots. At least there's a bit of skill involved in what we've just said. There's no skill in drawing lots. Penalty shootouts, at least there's a skill there.
Colin says it's impossible to draw the perfect circle, so they could each draw a circle and best effort goes through to the last 16. Of course, I mean, we all know that Michelangelo, or was it Leonardo, did manage to draw the perfect circle, and so therefore this is actually not true. And, you know, sure, I mean, like, surely, we've all moved on, right?
They could do like a pub quiz, general knowledge, see who's more in tune with the
Difficult
world.
to get that right, and, you know, we all know pub quiz, like the crappy quiz, everybody's a cheat.
Yeah, it's fair. Not everybody.
Everybody's a cheat.
I've never cheated in the crappy quiz.
Okay. Wojciech Szczesny, who has emerged as like one of the top goalkeepers in the world over the course of the tournament.
Yeah.
Like,
and he's cocky.
Have we underrated him?
Definitely. Oh, he's a player. This boy. He is a player. And he had the bet with Messi just before the penalty was awarded.
So in the aftermath, he explained what his bet was. You're not allowed bet now. This is very dodgy territory, admitting this. But anyway, go on. Have a listen.
No, I didn't. We spoke before the penalty. I told him I can bet him €100 that he wasn't going to give it. So I've lost the bet against Messi. I don't know if that's allowed at the World Cup. I'm probably going to get banned for it. I don't care right now.
So you bet it?
Pay him either.
You're not going to pay him 100?
No, he doesn't care about €100. Come on.
He has enough?
Yeah, I think so.
No. You gotta pay your bets.
Gotta follow
Just
through.
pay him £100. You don't care about it either.
Yeah.
Come on, pay him £100. Ceremonial handing over. Although maybe if they pay it, that would constitute having made the bet.
That would be a bet.
So then it's okay. Sorry, he wiggled out of it there. It's like it wasn't real.
Yeah. But see, Messi knew that was a
This is the type of thing, right? In Qatar, the Qatari government might be like, here, what? No gambling. No.
Yeah, that's fair. It might crop up.
Lock him up.
Yeah. Szczesny might have, but as he said himself, he doesn't care because they've.
Well, he'll care when he's in Qatari jail.
Well, potentially. But Messi, safe bet for him because as he knows, he wasn't even touched for the penalty. It was one of the most horrific penalty decisions I've ever seen. But Messi knew he was going to get it because he's Lionel Messi. The referee was told to go and have a look. Give this penalty, it's Messi.
I didn't think it was a penalty at the time.
No.
I do think. I wonder, is there a case to be made though? No. Just let me make the case. So if Szczesny is putting Messi off, right? The only way they can put him off is to like go at the I'm going to clock you in the face, and so it's the intention, and then he pulls out of it, and they're like, well, actually, the only way for you to stop Messi scoring there was a foul, even though it wasn't actually, you didn't carry through with it. It's like attempted murder as opposed to murder. I mean, I'm not really comparing. This isn't Harold Schumacher and Baddistone. But do you know what I mean? Oh, I didn't get you. I didn't get him. It's like, well, you were about to get me.
You can't give.
Come on, ref! You gotta give me that.
You can't give a foul for intent. That's like saying, "Oh, I intended to drink drive last night. I didn't, but I intended to."
Well,
but that's not a crime. You didn't do it in the end. That's fine. Just don't do it.
Intended to murder you, but I didn't do it is still a crime.
Well, that is
breaking news, Shane.
That is fair. Sorry, yeah. But no, it wasn't a penalty.
I intended to crack your skull, but actually you wiggled out of it and got away, and so that's not a yellow card. I didn't get him.
Szczesny didn't intend to do anything. Szczesny intended to punch the ball away.
Well, Szczesny's a very clever goalkeeper. Anyway, look, I probably agree with you, and I don't want to waste too much time on that. I don't think it's a penalty, but like they're now saying that he's not going to get the World Cup final because of giving that penalty. Like one of the referees who was paid to write in the paper is like, oh, I suspect he won't get the World Cup final now after his error, and you're like, but it wasn't his error, it's the VAR error.
Yeah, he was told to have a look, but then he could have watched the monitor and said, no, show a bit of ball, just don't give the penalty.
Yeah,
it wasn't a penalty.
I didn't even think. I mean, I think there was half-hearted Argentina claims for it.
Yeah,
they were kind of, oh, no, come on, look at it.
Well,
and then because there's like a little bit of like, oh, do I have to look at this? And so, what? Okay, we'll look at it. And so it just
look. I was in the Liberty Bell pub before the gig watching this moment, and it was a neutral crowd. There were no real Argentina fans or Poland fans. When the penalty was given, there were audible boos when people saw the replay up on screen, and when Chesney saved, I mean, the place erupted.
Mad, did it? Yeah,
the place erupted.
Yeah,
it was justice.
Yeah,
horrible decision and a great save, by the way.
Very good goalkeeper.
Yeah. He's
definitely
very good.
Like in the you can't get the Golden Gloves. Is Golden Gloves not like for the most clean sheets, or is it actually is it a vote?
Or is it the best keeper?
I mean, he's in the shout for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Courtois right up until he threw the ball to his own net.
Yeah, I don't mean this is in any way offensive to Poland fans, but I mean Poland were extremely cowardly last night as well in the way they played. Like in terms of holding on desperately. Like if Mexico had scored, all of a sudden they're out and they're going, why did we do that?
And Mexico did score one of the goals of the tournament.
Unbelievable. Luis Chavez free kick, 35 yards at the production meeting this morning. Colin, producer, kept banging on about this. He was like, you have to talk about this. And to be fair, what a free kick. Left foot roof. It was one of those that kind of defies physics and just keeps rising to the top corner, and you're like, all the superlatives can be used, and all the cliches as well. Like the keeper couldn't have got to it.
No, I don't think so.
Like he literally, it's pretty much impossible to hit a football any better than
it's
Luis
proper
Chavez.
thunder bastard. Now, does this like there is certainly in American soccer there is a school of thought that says take more shots from distance because you know, if you're not in the lottery you can't, if you don't have a ticket. But I'd love to see the actual global data on shots from outside the box and the propensity to score, because like this is too far out. You're not supposed to score from there. Like
35 yards.
I did also think the wall for Rashford's goal was like, lads, could you cover the goal?
Put some respect on his name. They didn't expect him to score.
Well, but like they did seem to be very far back and kind of like, oh, if you just kick it over to that far corner where the goalkeeper isn't and there's no one standing, you know, you do that there and we'll see what happens. And then he does, and you're like, oh yeah, good man, you did exactly what we. It's like, what? Defend anyway. Most clean sheets for Golden Gloves. Okay, so Chesney's obviously not going to get it. Owen O'Connor says, does Shane think anyone can stop Fred from being player of the tournament?
I'm getting this reputation. I actually said Casemiro. I'm 99% sure I said Casemiro instead of Fred. I think I said Fred. I think I mentioned Fred. Someone look it up. I think I mentioned Fred he could have a decent tournament. He hasn't been the man that Brazil needed. Casemiro has, and Richarlison has. But I think I said Casemiro. And like at this moment in time, I'd still take that bet. Casemiro could well be player of the tournament. It's often given to a player like that who kind of comes in unless a Brazilian player goes on to score 6-7, becomes the player of the tournament or the top scorer of the tournament. Well, fair enough.
It's going to be Richarlison at this stage if things continue to go the way. Well, it's going to be Mbappe if France win. This is decided after the winners win. Yeah, the best player on the winning team gets it. And so I don't know, is Casemiro in that? I mean, he's probably not far off the discussion at the moment. Eamon Kelly says the Cure play at the Point tonight. Better gig, lads. I mean, yeah, certainly. I mean, if you're of a certain generation, I think Shane's generation might prefer last night. Your and mine might be more into the Cure. I do remember Robert Smith saying he's going to retire at 40. I think he's 60 something, and he's still going. So fair play to him.
Get them lit.
Yeah. All right, what else do you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's a few other bits. I mean, the World Cup, it's bringing up too many talking points almost now, because you're like, we were looking up this morning, so the first break we have, I think, is next Tuesday and Wednesday between the last 16 and the quarterfinals, where we can finally actually sit down and go, let's reflect and analyse. So
we were just saying, this is like this is a great weekend. So Tuesday and Wednesday's off next week.
They're off, yeah.
But then Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
it's constant. You get the quarterfinals starting then. The
quarterfinals starting on Thursday.
They start on Thursday, yes. I'm nearly sure.
I thought it was Friday. I thought it was Saturday, Sunday, 4 quarterfinals.
Well, this Saturday is the last 16 starting. So you've got Saturday, Netherlands, USA, Argentina, Australia, and then on Sunday the only other two round of 16 fixtures.
Friday, Saturday next week.
Friday, Saturday the following week. Yeah. Friday the quarterfinals start.
10th of December.
9th to 10th is the quarterfinals, and then the Tuesday and Wednesday, 13th and 14th, is semi-finals.
That quarterfinal weekend is going to be the greatest weekend of football in world history.
Ah, yeah.
Apparently the viewership figures are through the roof for the Winter World Cup. Who knew?
People have time.
Like, do you know?
But the kids, I feel sorry for kids who are in school and don't get to properly experience it. I know there's the evening games where they get to watch maybe the 3 o'clock match and the 7 o'clock match, so it's okay now for the rest of the tournament, but they would have missed a lot of group games.
I'm certainly aware of some schools that were like, well, we just watched 45 minutes of football here.
Oh, did they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, fair enough. Even though Ireland aren't in it.
Is that a universal experience? Has anybody else out there had kids coming home going, oh, we watched a bit of football today? And I'm like, fair play.
Yeah.
Because it's the World fucking Cup, so you can watch it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if schools did that. I thought it was because my experience, of course, 2002 was the TV being rolled out for Robbie Keane's goal against Germany and that sort of thing. So I wasn't sure if that was a Irish had to be in the tournament thing, or if that was the World Cup is on thing. Any teacher that puts on the football for the kids, fair play, because I think it's one of those moments. I don't know. There's no wheeling in TVs anymore. I'm sure they like just blink and it comes up onto a screen somewhere, or teacher just presses a button on the desk and some big James Bond type gadget comes out and lasers it up onto the screen. I don't know how it works now, but
yeah, pretty much.
Back in my day,
and they don't have blackboards anymore.
Oh.
Mark Dunning says Luka Modric won it in 2018. Of course, Luka Modric won it in 2018, but that was very much an outlier. Like you would have said Zidane was the best player in the World Cup in 2006, but they gave it to Cannavaro because they couldn't really give it to Zidane after the headbutt. But maybe they probably should still have given it to. I don't know. Well, I was actually surprised that they did give it to Modric in the end. You know, there were some decent candidates from the winners.
I'd like to see a little bit more of that, even in terms of man of the match, like Shane Walsh being a perfect example. Like that sort of stuff needs to happen more. Give the award to the best player on the day or in the tournament. Don't just pander to the, I guess, winning team and feel like you have to give it to a certain player. No offence to David Clifford, he had a great year last year.
Not bad, yeah, and he's gonna get enough individual accolades anyway. OTB AM brought to you live each morning with Gillette in association with Movember. Effortless shave, magnificent Mo. You can sign up or donate now at Movember.com. Today's the last day we're going to be telling you about that, because obviously Movember is over. Here's what's coming up between now and 10 o'clock on the show this morning. Lars Sivertsen is going to join us in 2 minutes. We have Rasmus Tantholdt, who you might remember from the very start of the World Cup, was the Danish journalist who was doing an interview at a roundabout when all of a sudden the Qatari police came over like, no, you cannot be broadcasting here. And he's like, no, I totally can be. I'm like, I'm here for that whole reason. So we're going to talk to him at 8:15. Denmark obviously out of the World Cup. Ciaran Walsh is the Monaghan man, currently ranked number 2 at FIFA eSports in Ireland. He's going to join us at 8:25 with some tips and hints. Sports News with John Duggan at 8:35. Will Greenwood is going to join us to talk to us about what he thinks the future for Eddie Jones is at 8:50. Anna Harrington from the Australian Associated Press is going to talk to us at 9:10 about the fact that they are through to the round of last 16 where they're going to face Argentina. That's the second time only ever in their history that they've qualified for the last 16. Right. The other big news on the back pages here: Saudis offer Ronaldo deal for 170 million a year.
I was looking at these headlines this morning, and there was back pages that said, like the back page of the Guardian kind of summed up the where the Messi Ronaldo situation is now. Argentina advanced despite Messi woe, and then up the top, Al Nassr want free agent Ronaldo to play in Saudi Arabia. £173 million a year offer. Won't be taxed on that either. You'd imagine in Saudi Arabia. So this is like the period where we knew it was going to happen at some point. So it's the 1st of December 2022, and the Ronaldo Messi era is pretty much closing in front of our eyes.
If you think about the amount of money that they gave Phil Mickelson to play golf, which is golf, and you can give the same amount of money to Ronaldo to play football, which is football, like Ronaldo's social following and clout online and influence and celebrity is stratospherically different from Phil Mickelson on a global scale. And they're like, yeah, we'll give you the same as Phil Mickelson.
Yeah, to play a global sport. Like Ronaldo would be mad not to take money like this. He probably only has 3 years maybe where he can get this kind of money and still draw in a lucrative crowd because he's still playing to a high enough level. But from his point of view, the whole interview with Piers Morgan and everything that happened towards the tail end of Manchester United was down to ego. He couldn't accept the fact that he isn't at the level that he used to be at, and he's not the main man anymore, and teams aren't built around him. So I wonder, is that ego still hurt a little bit and bruised by the fact that maybe Saudi Arabian clubs are the only ones that are in for him. He's not at the level anymore.
I think that if you're Ronaldo, the cushion of money that you sleep on will soften that blow a little bit. It's
money though.
It's 7:51. I'm delighted to say broadcaster and journalist Lars Sivertsen is with us this morning. Lars, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Tell me, before we get into the World Cup itself, what's your instinct about where Cristiano ends up playing football?
That's a fascinating question, isn't it? Because you can obviously understand from the money side of it, some sort of transfer to Saudi would, I'm sure, appeal to him. But surely with him, you got enough money at some point. That shouldn't be a motivating factor for him. I know that's easy to say about wealthy people. They all seem to be quite happy to accumulate more wealth, and perhaps that's just how it goes. But all the stuff about not being happy at Man United and Man United not progressing as a club that he's come out with, all that looks a bit stupid if you then move somewhere that doesn't have much of appeal in the sporting sense. Surely he wants another crack at some kind of big time level of football, wherever that may be. Now, I think if he's willing to maybe ease off with some of the wage demands, that there might be possibilities for him there, even if it's not quite in the stratosphere that he imagines. But you can imagine a club in Portugal, for instance, or one of the sort of secondary big the tier club in Europe could take him. But it's a very strange situation, I think, because there is such a discrepancy between where he appears to see himself and where I think most of the sport sees him at this point in time.
The money for the European teams is very interesting, because you can't really justify paying 600 grand a week or whatever the fee has been up to this point in wages if you're anybody who isn't PSG, and turns out they already have some good striking talent there. Maybe Real Madrid might be able to justify paying him something, but again, he's going to be a bit of an opportunity stopper, unless the injury that Benzema has is more serious and maybe comes in.
Yeah, and even, I mean, we see him linked with like Napoli. Like, I don't think he starts ahead of Victor Osimhen. I mean, I think it's a strange one with him, because like, I'm not writing him off. He obviously is still Cristiano Ronaldo, and he still has some incredible sort of goal scoring instincts and all this. But he does have some limitations that makes it really challenging to set up a team around him. And I think the teams at the very highest level, I'd be surprised if any of them went for him, to be honest.
It feels like the changing of a guard, Lars. I mean, you see Ronaldo heading to Saudi potentially. Messi's performance is not the same as he was. And then the likes of Mbappe and Haaland just kind of taking over. It's passing of the guard in many ways in football at the moment.
Yeah, no, it certainly is becoming very, very clear. I mean, you could argue that actually the last World Cup was the moment when we understood, in a sense, that while they're still great, Messi and Ronaldo are kind of on the way down a little bit, whereas Kylian Mbappe sort of announced himself, had announced himself, but showed in that tournament that he is the coming man. And certainly this tournament, it's completely unavoidable to reach that conclusion.
He's not even the main man, Messi, with Argentina anymore. Like, you're watching the match last night and you're seeing people like Alexis McAllister stepping up, and all of a sudden a team that completely revolved around him just doesn't anymore.
Yeah, though I would say that in the specific case of Argentina, that might not be a negative. I think part of their problem in this time where they've had Messi for the national team is that, we watch them play, and it seems like some of the players are almost in awe of him, and there's a tendency to just give him the ball and just wait and see what happens now. Whereas even if you have Messi in your team, it's good if the team functions like a normal football team, where people make runs and move around and do the stuff that normal football teams do. That kind of actually helps Messi do his stuff. So I think in that sense that might be a positive. Though having said that, not super impressed by what they've done so far in the tournament. Argentina really strange, because I've watched some of their qualifying games, and obviously we remember them winning the Copa America, and they looked like they were really actually putting it together, and that this could be the time when finally they have a team good enough to help Messi and carry Messi along to actually get to the final. But not impressive so far.
I think one of the things that happens as well in World Cups is that teams suddenly find themselves over the next week. And there's so many examples of teams stuttering through group stages, and then somebody finds form, something happens back to back, or a penalty shootout goes their way, and they're suddenly free from the burden of what it was that was holding them back, or a row in the camp allows the manager to finally pick the right team. And I think we're kind of waiting for a couple of the teams who are not performing well to have something either go horribly wrong or horribly right. Argentina are kind of in that mix for one of those teams who you could see a significant step up in improvement, or they could crash out horribly against Australia?
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a good shout. I remember Roberto Martinez of Belgium said that after the Canada game, he was kind of, they won the game, but the interview after the game was a little bit more of an aggressive questioning, obviously, because they were terrible. And he did make the point, and whether I'm not sure it's true for Belgium, but I think it's a good point in general, which is that this is a tournament that more than any other World Cup, teams might have to grow into a little bit, because they haven't had a couple of weeks in like a training camp setting together before the tournament to figure stuff out. They've all just kind of been flown in from various parts of the world and suddenly thrown together and have to figure everything out with a few training sessions. And teams that you buy yourself time almost by getting a job done in the group stages, and you're kind of hoping comes together. I remember writing preview material for this tournament, and I kept repeating myself saying, well, this team has enough talent to go very far, but there are some big shortcomings here, and I'm not sure how it's going to work out. I think that's true for like 5 or 6 teams really, and it's a really fascinating tournament in that regard.
I think a lot of teams and countries have negative stories around them, and it wouldn't be a World Cup without a negative story or two and some controversy around the team. Like you mentioned, Roberto Martinez, Belgium seem to be that team where he's having to deny rumours from the camp of unrest, and he's hitting out of the Belgian media as well, saying fake news. And I guess they're the country that is really, really disappointed. But given the age profile, it's perhaps no surprise.
Yeah, I mean... The whole question going into it, is this the last chance for the golden generation of Belgium? No, I don't think it is at all. I think the last World Cup was the last chance for the golden generation of Belgium. I think they always had certain shortcomings, certain positions where they weren't that strong. And now quite a few of the good players have aged out, and even players who are still around, like Eden Hazard has had a terrible time since going to Real Madrid, and that shouldn't make light of it because it's been mostly caused by injuries, and injuries, of course, is not his fault, but it hasn't worked out well for him at all. And Romelu Lukaku, the last 18 months of his career haven't been very positive, with the failed move back to England and then going back to Italy, hoping to rediscover his groove, and then having injuries this autumn. So some of the Belgian players are kind of, some have aged out entirely, and some are very much on the downward curve. And that the defense feels like it's been kind of old and slow and over it for quite a while now, and it's certainly not looking very impressive. They did, of course, try to bring in some fresh impetus with Andre Onana in midfield in the last game, and that he gave them some legs. But like a midfield two of Andre Onana and Axel Witsel, it's not exactly very sort of from a playmaking perspective. I mean, suddenly you start having trouble moving the ball forwards. They were very, very unimpressive in that game against Morocco, and I'd be really surprised if they were able to do anything today against Croatia.
It's funny, isn't it? But at the same time, if they were to suddenly get an electrification of form from one or other of their key players, you can see how one player can drag a team to quarterfinal, semi-final in this World Cup.
Yeah, that's the caveat we keep having to make when we're talking about these things in a setting that is recorded and broadcast through the technology of the internet, is that to avoid looking stupid in the future, you have to always say, listen, all these things can be wrong with Belgium, but they still got Kevin De Bruyne. It's entirely possible that in the game today against Croatia, 5th minute, Kevin De Bruyne just slaps one in the top corner from 30 yards, and off you go. I mean, that's how these things can work. And World Cups are funny because very often when we're talking about football and we're analyzing football teams, we're kind of talking about systems and who's got a group that works and who's got a method that works and a process that works. Because over a sort of 38-game league season in the Premier League, for instance, having the best system and the best group and the best collective and the best method is usually what'll win it out for you in the end. And that's true to an extent about the World Cup, but the World Cup is, I think, so much more about moments as well than just having an ideal system. I mean, we'll get to Australia in a minute, but it's a case of if you have individuals who can execute when it really matters, that can fix so many things for you, even if a lot of other things with the team is wrong.
As you say that, right, I'm making the case, I can see England doing well, I can see Spain doing well, I could even see the Dutch doing well under get the system, have somebody have a moment, get the system right, have somebody have a moment. You can apply it basically to everybody, with maybe the exception of France and Brazil, who are so supremely talented. But even then, like, Brazil have a really, really old centre-back who surely some of these kids are going to run past at some point, and he's going to haul down, and whether or not the referee or VAR gives the penalty could be the decisive moment. And that midfield of France, like, really, is Rabiot going to be one of those players that will look back and go, he won a World Cup, he was brilliant? Maybe.
Yeah, no, I do have to say I quite like the look of France so far. I mean, this is sort of I'm not much of a controversialist, but I will argue I actually think, in one sense, the injury to Benzema helps them. Not because Giroud is a better footballer than Benzema, he absolutely isn't. But I think also these tournaments are about not just having the highest number of good players in your team and the best players possible, but the right balance and having a team with like constituent parts that fit well together. And ever since Benzema came back to the French national team, it's like, oh, it's great, you've got Benzema and Mbappe and Griezmann, it's incredible, but like the balance there hasn't looked quite right to me. When you have Giroud playing and Mbappe playing slightly off him, like everyone knows whose job is what here. Everyone knows who is the big star and who's there to do a job and to facilitate. And I actually think Didier Deschamps has hit upon something with this team now, a midfield where you've got you've got no Pogba, no N'Golo Kante or anything, but Rabiot has been less bad this year for Juventus. He's got a good engine. He runs around a lot. Him next to Tchouaméni is pretty solid, and we're seeing Antoine Griezmann drop deep in a much deeper role than he's been playing before. Almost, I mean, he looks. They put him in like a number 10 spot when you see the team lineup on paper, but he's really been moving around and helping out more like a midfielder for a lot of the games. And with then Mbappe and Giroud in that connection that we know works, and a sort of resurgent Ousmane Dembélé who's finally managed to stay fit for a while and is showing good stuff. Put all this together, and that looks like a really good football team to me, I have to say.
Lars, I know you're supposed to have journalistic integrity and therefore be completely immune to the charms of who wins or who loses, but who do you actually want to win?
Well, I wanted Denmark to do well, so that's not, just for the sake of Nordic bias. That's obviously not happening well at all. I'd want... Just on a personal level, I want some kind of underdog to do better than expected. I've been really, this is way out there. I'm not saying they'll win it or anything like it, but I was really impressed with Morocco in their first two games. Yeah. Just because I remember, again, doing preview material, writing about Morocco going, hang on, there are actually quite a lot of good players in the squad. But will it hang together? Because, you know, they fired their manager after qualifying. So Walid Regragui, who's in charge, he hasn't been there for very long. And you wonder, is this going to work collectively? How do all these players fit together? They've got two right backs. What do you do about that? All this sort of stuff. So that was my question. But against both Belgium and against Croatia, I thought they did a great job in stopping the opponent by being very clever, not pressing super high all the time, but by positioning themselves such that you make it difficult for the opponent to play out, with Sofiane Amrabat doing a really good job tidying up in midfield, really well structured, looked really well drilled, and it'd be great to see an African country do well in the tournament, and really they look like a team that's going to be kind of awkward to beat and awkward to play against.
I kind of want to whisper this, Lars, but could England win it?
They could. I think they're in the group of teams who I mean to my mind, You put kind of Brazil and France ahead a little bit in terms of who are the favourites, but then there's a cluster of teams who I frankly find very hard to separate at this point in time. And sure, there's enough quality in the England team to win it. The thing that's a little bit ominous is what happened in the US game, where you met a team that has a really energetic and frankly good midfield, which the US does have. That trio of Tyler Adams and McKennie and Yunus Musa, those are good footballers, and they have a lot of energy, and they just really put a lot of pressure on those central midfielders to England, and England just couldn't play anymore. They just weren't able to live with it, and they weren't able to move the ball forwards the way they want to, and that I thought was a little bit ominous. I forget who it was. I'm sorry, I'm stealing someone's joke, but I saw someone on Twitter write that, you know, the midfield of Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham are supposedly worth £200 million, but here we've been outdone by a man named Tyler. I mean, that's not a good sign. And there was a little bit of that in that game. Listen, if you look at that squad, of course, there's talent to win any game, and if you have the players to win anyone you come up against, you've got a chance at winning the World Cup. But the way they sort of stopped functioning the second you really put pressure on that midfield, that worried me a lot.
Do you think there is a situation where we could, like, I'm just looking at the round of 16 fixtures here, half of them are set up so far, USA and Netherlands, Australia playing Argentina, Poland, France and England, Senegal. Is there a universe here where we could have something like 2002 where you had a South Korea and a Turkey in a World Cup semi-final and maybe underdogs can go fairly deep?
I mean, you would think that this would be a tournament for that sort of thing. I think the fact that teams didn't have the normal time to prepare, that things are a little bit thrown together, perhaps that does favor an underdog, because it does mean those teams who've got the incredible individuals haven't really had time, or perhaps haven't had time to perfect what they're doing collectively. So that might be possible. I'm a romantic at heart, but I'm also deeply cynical about these things. And the trend seems to be that the best teams tend to go the furthest. And we've had some interesting little shocks so far in the group. But if I'm being honest, I do suspect that the quality will show when we get to the knockouts.
Like that first fixtures that you listed out there, Shane, Netherlands, USA, Argentina, Australia, the winners of that play each other. And so one of those four teams is going to be 50-50 in the semi-final as well. The other bracket has to be decided.
Netherlands USA is an interesting one, because the Dutch have not been great, I have to say. They were quite fortunate, I thought, to win against Senegal. They were terrible against Ecuador. That was an awful performance. I think they had 2 shots in the entire game. Very, very bad. And then they looked a little bit better against Qatar, but it was against Qatar. So I'm not really sure. And it looks to me like Louis van Gaal is kind of scratching around a bit, trying to find what his best midfield is. Memphis Depay isn't fully fit. Now, it helps a lot that Cody Gakpo is having a bit of a moment and carrying on his amazing league form into this tournament and scoring goals and looking like the real deal. But I think the Dutch are beatable for the US, who have their own problems. But I think, again, with that very energetic midfield they have to make life difficult for the Dutch, who, as we know, like to pass the ball around, haven't looked that strong. I think that's an interesting one in terms of an upset.
I think the point you made about youth and running ability is something that the Americans have in abundance. I think they named the youngest starting 11 in the World Cup so far in the last game. So, Pulisic's injury is going to be important to watch, and if he doesn't play, obviously it's a massive blow for them for all sorts of reasons. But that might end up being very important in the sprint that we're in at the moment.
I think it could. It's funny you mentioned Pulisic. They're worried about him, but if he doesn't make it, then they've got, Brendan Aronson of Leeds can come in that position. Gio Reyna from Dortmund can come into that position. So actually there's a little bit of depth there. And they've got a strange combination, the US, of having a very young squad, yes, but they also have more players. I mean, compared to previous US national teams, they have more players who are playing at a high level in Europe than ever before. The midfield is a guy from Juventus and a guy from Leeds and a guy from Valencia. And look across the board, you've got players playing for big European clubs there, which hasn't always been the case, or hasn't ever really been the case with the US. So there is real quality there as well. And the Dutch have been so unimpressive. They're certainly, as you mentioned earlier, sometimes teams just scrape through the group stage and then they just kind of find themselves. And at the end of the day, it's a short tournament. You only need to win a couple of more games and you've done very well. Maybe that'll happen with the Dutch. But based on what we've seen in the group stage, I think the US are more than capable of beating Holland.
Lars, a lot of love for you in the comments. William Doyle says you need to be a regular. And then James wants to know, what do you think? If Ireland had made it to this World Cup, how would we have done? Would we have won any games?
Well, I think you could have. Yeah, I think if you look at, I know this is slightly different from what you guys are doing now under Stephen Kenny. You're trying to play more football and be more confident with the ball and have more possession, which I think is a good direction to go in. But you also have to say, if you look at what Australia have managed to do, of being very combative, quite direct, but just really winning your 50-50s as much as you can and just not making life easy for the opponent and making them work for everything and hoping to catch them on a bit of an off day. There's no reason Ireland couldn't have done that, really. I know you worry a little bit about do you have enough players in the Premier League these days? The Australians don't have any players in the Premier League. This is a team made up of guys from the A League, from Scotland, and Mitchell Duke, who plays in the second tier in Japan. It is possible at these tournaments to sort of overperform in terms of where your teams, where your individual, where they are in their club career. Anyway, so I think, again, looking at a team like Australia should give you hope, no?
Yeah. I guess we were looking at Wales and Denmark and going, oh well, they tend to be better than us at the moment. Maybe the Welsh cycle is over because their best players are no longer any good. And
yeah, you worry about that a little bit. Just listen, I think. Well, I don't know how you see that from Ireland, but certainly here in the UK, people just have so much sympathy and goodwill towards the Welsh team, and really want them to do well, because it's great how they've punched above their weight in the last decade or so. But if there was one big takeaway from their tournament, is that Bale and Ramsey look like they're past it now, man. And a few of the other guys who have really been carrying that team. Joe Allen's been really good for them. It looked like they might not be at the level that they used to be. And listen, there's some pretty interesting young players coming through there. So maybe in a couple of years, but this group, yeah, that cycle looks like it's at an end.
How's the leg, Lars?
That's very kind of you to ask. It's getting better. It's getting better. It's a long recovery time, but I'll get there.
Well, we wish you all the best. Nothing better to do than sit on the couch and watch football for the next month, so that's okay.
But it's good. I can do all the exercises on my ankle to get it moving again, so it's great.
Listen, great to have you with us. Thanks a million, Lars. Cheers.
Anytime, guys. Bye.
It's Lars Sivertsen there, and a brilliant debut.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. That Australia-Ireland comparison has kind of got me thinking.
Yeah, I'm like, that's much better.
Yeah,
thanks for pointing that out.
Well, like, if we played Australia,
the shame spiral has been interrupted.
It has. Well, like, I often think, like, if we had been, pitched against Australia in a qualification campaign or in a friendly, right, like before this tournament had started, we'd have said, yeah, we can beat them lads. But then you look at them in a World Cup and you're like, hold on a minute, Australia are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and as he says,
much bigger country, much better weather than us. How can we compare?
Yeah, but we're always giving out about players not playing in the Premier League. He's just made the point that Australia don't have any players at that level. Like, one of their goal scorers is in the second tier of Japan, so that kind of sums it up.
Right, Braeburn Coffee is the official coffee partner of OTB. The festive season is obviously officially here, so why not enjoy a shot of gingerbread goodness in your Braeburn Coffee today? Available at Apple Green locations nationwide. After the break, journalist Rasmus Tantholdt of TV2 in Denmark, who went viral from Qatar when his live report on the eve of the World Cup was interrupted, will speak to us about covering the tournament at the ground and what's gone wrong with the Danes. First, our man in Qatar, Kevin Kilbane, spoke with Joe last night about how Lionel Messi might be able to prolong his international career as a holding midfielder. Enjoy.
I think it's probably a bit of both, Joe. I think you're right. I think he knows that he can't maintain the level of energy-wise and performance-wise like that, because he probably recognises he might not have enough in the legs, but unbelievably strong. You can still see players bouncing off him. You can still see that he runs faster with the ball than without it, actually. When I think he was put through there tonight and he's tried to get up ahead of steam, and the Polish defender just come back and took the ball off him. So he's obviously not as dynamic as he once was. I think that's fair to say. But there is still that buzz whenever he touches the ball, and he still has that little bit of skill, that little bit of magic. He hardly gave the ball away tonight. I was half looking to try and get his own individual stats tonight, because a couple of longer balls that he tried to hit that didn't come off for him. In terms of keeping the ball and his recognition of space around him, taking the ball under pressure, always 1 and 2 touch passing, I don't think there's anyone better. Do you know, Joe, and I know that they're talking coming over to the MLS and he'll be playing for Miami for the next few years, but he could play as a holding midfielder in some of the top sides. He could go back to Barcelona and do a Xavi role for another 3 or 4 years. That's the thing where you half think, does he need to go to the MLS where he can play into his 40s in the MLS? Surely he's got another 2 or 3 more years where he can play as a holding midfielder, or just a guy that makes the game tick over, because I can imagine him playing in that role and just never giving the ball away, and still being able to bring that little bit of magic once or twice in a game by beating a few players and sticking them in the top corner. So I'd love to see him carrying in Europe and still go for another Champions League, not just this season but beyond that.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Off the Ball Daily.
A home for your favourite podcasts from Off the Ball. The performance rankings, a slight tangent, the crappy quiz, and you had to be there.
5 goals in 20 minutes. It's just, you can't do that. It's the Premier League. You can't do that.
Subscribe to the Off the Ball Daily podcast feed right now.
Are you a sports fanatic who loves to travel? Then sportspass.ie is for you. Log on for the chance to win the trip of a lifetime in 2023 to a top global sporting event. 8 winners get to choose from 12 incredible prizes, including trips to the Women's World Cup in Australia, the Super Bowl, the Masters and WrestleMania. All prizes include return flights, accommodation and tickets for 2 people from anywhere in the world. That's sportspass.ie. You win, you choose.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Now, I'm delighted to say we're going back to Qatar. Rasmus Tantholdt is a journalist from Denmark who went pretty viral at the start of the World Cup when the Qatari authorities interrupted a live report. Rasmus, first off, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm good. It's hot, but of course we're all devastated in Denmark after what happened yesterday. So, well, I feel okay, but I'm very disappointed.
It wasn't really just yesterday that this happened, though. It's kind of been a slow, steady letting out of the air in the Danish tyres. What happened?
I mean, in Denmark and many other places, we talked about, should we boycott the World Cup? Should we not watch it at all on the television back home in Denmark? Should the Danish Football Association boycott it? Should the players boycott it and not attend the World Cup? Some people will say they did. They did not attend this World Cup. They boycotted the World Cup in Qatar by the way they played. I mean, I watched all the matches in the stadium and they just wasn't there. It's like they didn't understand this is a World Cup. It's now you have to perform. And we played against teams that we believe we are supposed to beat easily, like Tunisia and Australia. But they played their hearts out. They played like Denmark should have done. So people are extremely disappointed. Also, with the whole fairy tale story about Denmark, Christian Eriksen literally dying on the pitch in the Euro Cup, and the fairy tale that happened afterwards, like him coming back after 8 months, motivating the whole team, now playing in the big stage again in the World Cup. And there was so much expectations for this Danish team, and they just was a fiasco. It was a fiasco, to be honest with you.
It's funny, Rasmus, because the Danish coach, Kasper Hjulmand, that he's talked after the match about being too emotional, that the Danish players were too emotional almost to focus. Like, what does he mean by that? Because it's an experienced team. You'd imagine they'd be able to set emotions to one side.
It's professional players playing in big clubs, so they should be able to do that. But of course, there's been a lot of debate up to this World Cup, like everywhere else in Europe. I mean, should the Danish player wear the rainbow-colored One Love armband, or shouldn't they? Even though FIFA say they were not allowed to, they have done it anyway. The support from the Danish people haven't been the same. This is a World Cup in Qatar. Some people believe it shouldn't be here at all. And they wanted to see the Danish team not just talk about human rights and how this team, also having some values that they really stand up for. But when it comes to it and they are here, they didn't do it. So, I mean, I think the players, they could, lying in their beds in their room in Qatar, they could watch the headlines in Denmark, not being very nice to the Danish national team as they used to be in the Euro Cup. They could do nothing wrong. Everything was magic, whatever they did. And the headlines everywhere was, very positive. The Danish people are very positive, out in the streets, celebrating all the time. But this time they didn't have the same support, and maybe it affected them. I don't know, but there must be some kind of explanation to that performance.
The thing is that this team obviously is the same team, effectively, or largely the same team that went out on penalties to Croatia 4 years ago. We know that team very well. Christian Eriksen came to Dublin, scored an amazing hat-trick, ripped us apart in about half an hour of some of the best football that we've seen at our national stadium, maybe since it's been redeveloped, which is like 20 years at this point. So, we all thought you guys were, Shane thought you were dark horses to win the whole thing. I don't know. And that's why it's so difficult to understand why they can't actually put a performance together when all of even the age profile, maybe certain players are a little bit too old, but it doesn't make any sense. Is the manager capable of explaining anything? And is the post-mortem focusing on bad management, mismanagement of resources? Is it just a collective sigh of the shoulders, shrug of the shoulders and a sigh and say, okay, that's football, sometimes it doesn't happen?
I mean, now they're talking about, did he select the right players? Because actually many of the players, when they played against Ireland or when they played the Euro Cup, they were actually also in the start 11 in the clubs that they are playing on a daily basis. But many of the players, they're not in the start 11 anymore. You have some of the really, really, very valued player at the Danish team who hasn't been performing the last couple of, 6 months or so. And some people would say that the Danish coach Hjulmand, he should also have looked at who is actually playing in the start 11 in big European clubs and not just stick to the same old team as he has done for the last couple of years, even though they used to have some success. And it was also a matter of, the spirit on the team, those players, they created something together. Sometimes you have to, use people who are actually performing right now up to the World Cup. And many of these players, they didn't perform very well up to this World Cup. So that has been some of the criticism, and also some criticism that, you're talking about values. You're talking about that football is it's bigger than just football.
Yeah.
Christian Eriksen, what happened to him, and all these things. And then when they came, they couldn't stand up for those values. And the criticism might have some influence. But this is professional football players. They are, supposed to perform in an environment where you sometimes get criticized. So people are stunned. I mean, they don't understand what actually happened to this team.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Rasmus, you're a veteran of covering multiple World Cups, but I know that your day job is actually international coverage. So as a journalist who's not a day-to-day football journalist, what's your instinct about the impact that this World Cup is going to have? What was the point in Qatar trying to host this World Cup, in your view, having experienced it on the ground now?
Well, I think that the Qataris, they really hoped that they would get a lot of positive reviews, that people from Ireland, Denmark, and everywhere in the world, they would say, wow, let's go and have a holiday in Qatar. Let's invest in Qatar. But I think it's ended up as a kind of a boomerang for the Qatari government, because, what we have seen here is that it can be difficult to report. If you're a sports reporter, it might be possible to do it easily. You go from one stadium to the other and report about the sport. But I also covers, the good sides and the bad sides about the society. I did that also in Russia, in Brazil, in South Africa, in Germany, in South Korea, Japan. So that's what we do as journalists. We portray the host country. But that has been pretty difficult, as you might know, because I ran into some difficulties with the authorities. And it is not us revealing the Qatari government and the Qatari regime. It was them revealing themselves. And my experience is traveling around the world that, the more dirty laundry you have in the basement, you don't want to show to the public, the more difficult it is to work as a journalist.
Yeah, let's just roll that video, because I think people might be very familiar with what you're talking about at this stage.
Altså bliver udsat for en helt del kritik. Hvordan oplever du forholdene lige nu?
Jamen, vi kan jo vise, hvordan forholdene er lige her, hvis vi drejer kameraet. We are live on Danish television, og der kan I se, nu bliver vi stoppet med at filme, og det er forholdene her. Mister, you invited the whole world you invited the whole world to come here. Why can't we film? It's a public place. This is the accreditation. Okay. We can film anywhere we want. Okay. There are only, of course,
only for the Qatar.
Qatar, you have
because
rule.
The Qatar is
No. We don't need permit. But you can break the camera. You want to break the camera? Okay, you break the camera. Okay.
Bring the camera.
Yes. So you're threatening us by smashing the camera.
What happened next?
Well, the next thing that happened was that we were asked to stay there for a while, because they wanted to check, well, did we actually have the right permissions? As I told them we had. And after 30 minutes, their supervisor arrived. He looked at our permissions. He said, sorry, guys, you have the right permissions. And when I reflect on all this, I think they just did what they have been told to do for the last many years. If they see journalists working in Qatar, they have to check if they actually have the right permissions. And often it is very difficult to get those permissions, because they don't want to show the dirty laundry they have in their basement, and they don't want that to be published everywhere. And I guess that is why they just was informed that during the World Cup, guys, you have to behave a little bit, because now media are coming from all over the world. You cannot arrest people for filming in the street or threatening them by smashing the camera. Imagine if they did that to many journalists down here. I'm not the only one who was stopped in filming here. So that has been some kind of a challenge for the Qatari government to accept that, well, you invited us, yeah, and we're going to portray your country. We're going to go around taking pictures, talking to happy people and to sad people, and talk about your society.
Were you surprised by that treatment, Rasmus, or were you half expecting it before you went over? I know the police state essentially. Were you expecting what happened?
I've been traveling in many countries where I have been stopped from filming, but I was a little surprised that during a World Cup that they prepared for 12 years, that they wasn't prepared for us doing a live broadcast from a roundabout. I was not sneaking into a migrant labor camp, showing how some of the migrants they are living in very bad conditions. That wasn't actually what I did there. I was just doing a live broadcasting, and I was pretty surprised that they were not more prepared for the whole world to come and portray the country.
I want to roll another video here. This is you filmed fans at the Iranian match as well. I'm just going to roll this tape here and we can talk about it afterwards.
Yes. These journalists.
What did they do?
They attacked us. They attacked her. They attacked this girl.
Me.
For nothing.
I'm not
we
safe
need security. We don't have security here.
Look at me.
We need no. Just don't leave. Don't leave. Don't leave.
I will stay
I'm
here.
not trusting anybody here.
Don't let them go.
My phone. No. We need secure exit from here. Now,
Find phone, please.
So tell us what happened.
No. They just started attacking us.
Is it because of the t-shirt?
Yeah, because of the t-shirt. All right. No, but please don't go from here because I don't trust nobody. Even the police is with them. We need to get out of here. No. Not a two. Please, I beg you. My friend. Please, we just want to go home.
My daughter is call me as
No, we
my
just want to
daughter,
go
my
home.
So, afraid of our radio listeners, these are Iranian fans and they're wearing t-shirts that says woman, life, freedom on it. What happened there?
Well, it was after the match between USA and Iran. And actually, I was there to cover, the fact that USA are playing against Iran with the historical, disagreements they had. That could be interesting. But it turned out that the focus was totally different because after the match, one group of Iranians representing the Iranian regime, they attacked some people, as you saw, representing the protests against the regime that are happening right now in Iran. And they didn't feel that the Qatari police, they were protecting them at all. And, the Qatari regime has been accused many times of cooperating very closely to the Iranian regime, rejecting Iranian journalists coming from exile to cover the World Cup to come here. And also, letting in a lot of people from the intelligence service in Iran to keep an eye on all these people wearing T-shirts, protesting against the Iranian regime. Because for them, this is a possibility, a stage to talk about these things that are happening in Iran. Because I cannot go to Iran to cover that because I cannot get a media visa. It's impossible for international journalists to go to Iran at the moment. So this whole stage, the World Cup, is also a possibility for them to express their feelings about what's going on in Iran. And what happened was that they were attacked. And not even just this guy you saw here, but also a family with two crying kids that came up to us. So it was, I was, to be honest with you, pretty shocked about what happened because, this is a World Cup. This is supposed to be a celebration. All countries coming together, having a party, and to talk about our common passion, which is football, that brings us all together. But definitely, it didn't bring the Iranian people together.
Were you asked to get rid of that footage, Rasmus?
Definitely. The police, they didn't want us to film that as well, because they don't want this picture of Qatar haven't got control of things like this. So they asked me to delete the pictures, and I refused, of course, because I'm at a stadium. If I cannot film at a stadium during a World Cup, I don't know where I can film then. And they detained me for 15 minutes. They wouldn't let me go. I asked them plenty of times, please let me go. I don't want to be detained by you. But they did that, and they tried to force me to delete the pictures, trying to take my phone, but I rejected it. And that is why you could actually roll that clip as you just did, because I of course wouldn't do that. And in the end, they let me go. I guess because this is the World Cup. If this was 1 year ago, they wouldn't have done that. I might be in jail right now. I don't know. But because of the World Cup and because they don't want all this bad publicity, I guess they let me go and I can now stand here and talk to you.
Is your tournament over now that Denmark are out, or will you stay around until the final and keep reporting?
After this interview, I have to call my editor back home because actually I don't know. I mean, I'm actually enjoying this World Cup. I know that it has been criticized a lot, but when you are here and you see that you have a World Cup in a small country where you can go down the street and meet fans from 32 different nations, that is actually amazing. I mean, you couldn't do that in Russia, where you had to travel 6,000 kilometers to watch a match sometimes, and you only meet fans from the opponent, the team that you are playing. Here you can meet everyone, and that is one of the positive things. There are a lot of things to talk about that could be better in Qatar. I know about that, but one thing that is positive is that you can be so many people together about football in a small place. So I'm going to miss that, but I don't know exactly when I'm going to go back home. But thanks to the Danish team, it will be earlier than expected.
Rasmus, it's been brilliant talking to you. Thanks so much, and keep up the good work.
Thanks.
That was a really interesting insight into what it's actually like on the ground, and also what went wrong with the Danes. This is the dichotomy of the World Cup. Like, the football is really interesting, but everything else is also like, holy shit.
That interview pretty much sums up the World Cup, doesn't it? Like, because he's enjoying the World Cup. He gets to talk about the football, but then you see videos like that, and you're like, this is shocking.
Yeah. So you're dead right? So here is somebody who would, within their rights, be say, this is absolutely appalling. I can't believe I'm here. This is horrific. And then it's like, actually, I'm really enjoying it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, literally the whole experience of the organisers and the heavy-handedness, and also like, really, this is what the authorities are doing on their best behaviour.
Yeah.
This is them at their very best, as opposed to when there's nobody around, they're just breaking the camera and going,
yeah,
I told you I was going to break the camera, I brought the camera. What are you going to do about it?
And this is the mad thing, is that we're seeing Rasmus's clips because he's posting them. This is happening to other journalists where they're being stopped, as he points out. And then the Iranian clip, like, if he hadn't happened to have been there at that particular second, he wouldn't have got that clip. So how many times over is this happening where we're not seeing the results, and we're not seeing people being detained for wearing t-shirts that just spell out basic human rights issues? I mean, that's why we need journalists like Rasmus on the ground over there, because at least they're covering it. And I guess even beforehand, people were like, oh, journalists shouldn't be going over. They shouldn't be covering this because it's a tainted World Cup. But when you see videos like that coming out from journalists on the ground over there, you're like, well, this is why there are journalists over there. And I mean, people like Rasmus, if they keep doing it for the next couple of weeks, I hope they do, because there will be more videos like that. I think for the duration of this, the Qataris...
I had no idea that they were cooperating with the regime and allowing the intelligence services to come in and spy on Iranians who were there to watch football.
Madness. Complete madness. So those clips of the Iranian woman and man crying, I mean, they just want, as they say, I just want to go home. I just want to get out of here.
Yeah, it's a pity that we couldn't have seen a bit more of Iran in the tournament. Them going deeper would have been a bigger and bigger and bigger story.
Yeah.
And you just get the feeling that, like, when it comes to be written, the history of this World Cup is going to be fairly amazing in terms of its impact on global politics, as opposed to it was just a football tournament, because that's really not the case.
Well, it was the 22-year-old who was killed in Iran, Mahsa Amini, kept in prison, essentially in jail. That sort of story wouldn't have come to light because if Iran hadn't been in the World Cup and these fans hadn't been treated the way they are. So at least something is coming from it, and that the world spotlight is being shone on Iran and their atrocities.
We're going to talk about rugby with Will Greenwood and the situation in England in about 15 minutes time. If you've got anything you want to get off your chest, you can leave a comment on the YouTube stream, so youtube.com/offtheball, or of course you can get us on Twitter at OffTheBallAM. Now, we're brought to you live each morning with Gillette in association with Movember Effortless Shave, Magnificent Mo. You can sign up or donate now at Movember.com. I'm delighted to say we are joined by Ciaran Walsh. He's a Monaghan man, currently ranked number 2 in the FIFA eSports rankings in Ireland at the moment. Ciaran, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
Good morning, lads. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
You had a big win this week.
Yes, yeah. We had our A game for Ireland with Virgin Media down in Turner's Cross in Cork on Tuesday evening. So it was me and David Myler playing against my teammate at Wild, Tyrone Ryan and Stephanie Roach. And me and Myler took the win there in the best of 3 series. It was a great evening.
So you and Tyrone are teammates at Wild. Just explain for everybody what Wild is.
Yes, so Wild is an esports organisation. Wild actually stands for What You Love Doing Esports. So I signed for them as a professional FIFA player about 18 months ago. And so what they essentially do, they support us, to compete in international tournaments or domestic tournaments. And that's what me and Tyrone do.
And how many tournaments a year would you take part in?
So there's different. So there's partner leagues with FIFA. So we'd have like things like an E-Champions League and then an E-League of Ireland. We also have 5 major tournaments across the year that are run by EA and FIFA, and then we have tournaments run by FIFA E. So we've got an E-Nation series where we represent Ireland, and all the other member associations have teams that descend to that competition as well.
So it sounds busy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's a lot of time spent qualifying for these tournaments. Obviously, it's quite a high standard. You can't just show up and compete to these tournaments. You have to go through various kind of online stages and things like that there before you make it to the level where you can compete.
You said yourself and Tyrone are teammates at Wild, but is it this like a Federer and Nadal number 1 and 2 rivalry? Modern people don't like Tyrone at the best of times, and his name being Tyrone just can only add to it, I'm sure. Yeah, no, it's of course it's an interesting one. Like we're teammates for the most part, but then when it comes to things like the League of Ireland, we're obviously number 1 and 2, so we are great rivals there. But I think it's good to have someone as good as him as well in the country, because we push each other on. We keep driving each other to be better every day, and it's great to have a teammate like that. Is it a ranking system, or how do you get to number 1 and 2 and stay there?
Yeah, so there is different ways of ranking, but that's just based off the first E-League of Ireland tournament. It was held in 2021, and Tyrone beat me 3-0 in the final, so I'll be looking for a bit more revenge. I got a bit of revenge Tuesday evening with that win, but I'll be looking for the E-League of Ireland title now coming this year.
When you play him and he beats you 3-0, do you play the same team? Are you both the same team with the same players? How does that work?
Yeah, so within FIFA, we play a mode called Ultimate Team, and for big tournaments like that, we're given kind of an unlocked account from EA, and we can just choose whatever players we want. All the legends, like we've got R9 Ronaldo, Ruud Gullit. They're all kind of big features in the team, so we just have a straight pick of whoever you want. You can use anyone at all.
There is actually a bit of strategy involved then. You're not playing with the same, you get to pick your team and your formation.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's definitely a big part of it. Working out tactics and things like that, and that's kind of our job when the new FIFA's come out, to kind of find all these little tactical advantages, what's good on the game this year, what mechanics are working. Do I need a big man playing on the wing to score headers at the back post, for example, something like that. And it's all those little advantages that separate the players.
And sorry, you can obviously see his team, but you don't see the setup of it until afterwards. You have to go back and watch and go, that's how he beat me.
Yeah, you can see who he's using and his formation, but you can't see the tactics. But that's something that we kind of need to pick up in game as well. If you notice he's got a fullback overlapping or something, it'll be apparent in the game, and you might need to pause the game and adjust your tactics to counteract that.
Does it get lively during the games, Ciaran, or is it very friendly and amicable?
It's quite competitive now. No, it is good fun for the most part, but even the last Tuesday it was getting quite competitive on the stage with Myler and Stephanie. It's all about winning. You need that mindset to compete in these competitions. So
we've been hearing about David Myler's skills on FIFA for quite some time. Is he as good as people let on?
He is, yeah. He doesn't play as much anymore, but no, he used to be within the top 200 in FIFA back in maybe 2017, 2018. So no, he was a great teammate to me Tuesday night. But
I was going to say, is that not a bit of a ringer? You've got like an all-time great here. Although maybe you say he's coming off it a little bit.
He's not playing as much anymore. But no, well, Stephanie held her own with Tyrone. But yeah, David was a great teammate. But I think I'll stick with Tyrone for the main competitions this season.
Okay, shots fired. Who did you play Myler at all? Like even a little pickup game?
Briefly for
go on. Who won?
4 minutes. Well, I was 2-0 up.
There you go. That's all we wanted. But next time he's on, it's like, I can't believe it, Myler. You've let yourself go. What's going on?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So it's not like riding a bike. You actually, like as you said, Myler hasn't been playing as much recently, so he's lost a little bit. So you can't just pick it up.
He's got a bad knee. He's got a bad knee. We should give him a
cutting some slack here. Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, and we have to stay sharp. Like I said, we've got all those competitions through the season, starting around September time, and it runs right into the following summer. Yeah, we have to stay sharp, training every day and things like that, and that's why we're blessed. We've got our new academy in Cork City. It's powered by Virgin Media, so that's our place to kind of get together and train. So we've got all the best setups, PCs, all that equipment there, and the best internet, of course, so we can get together, train, and then we compete from there as well.
How many hours a day do you spend playing FIFA?
Well, it varies from time to time, but I'd say at a minimum it's probably 5 to 6 hours. Obviously, if you're trying to come into the final days, you're trying to qualify for a tournament, and you need to be in the cutoff of, for example, the top 256 in Europe. You need to keep up with that and put in maybe a few extra hours every day. So it does kind of vary, but 5 or 6 at a minimum.
And where are you in Europe at the moment? Is there an official ranking, or do you just have to instinctively guess that you're in a certain cohort and then try and catapult yourself up?
Yeah, so there is various rankings. There's no competitive rankings yet, because the first major tournament is the 7th and 8th. But it's the top 512 in Europe, and I'm around 400 seed going into that. So that's. Look, it will be tough, and the competition is the levels are really high in these tournaments. But no, that's why we keep training every day and pushing each other. And hopefully we'll be ready for the 7th and 8th of January.
What console do you play on, as a matter of interest?
Yeah, we play on the PS5, so all competitions on PS5 now. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if anybody's getting into this, get the PS5. That's the one if you want to be a pro.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ciaran, best of luck with everything, and thanks a million. If anybody wants to watch back any of the stuff, where's the best place to pick up this to get a kind of introduction?
Yeah, so if you'd want to watch back the game from Tuesday evening, it's on twitch.tv/Virgin Media Ireland. The past broadcast is all there, the full best of 3 is there, and you can pick up a bit there.
Winner, chicken dinner. Ciaran, thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Perfect, thanks guys.
It's Ciaran Walsh there, a Monaghan man, currently ranked number 2 in the esports FIFA rankings in Ireland. Right, it is 8:42. Are we playing the paper sting? No, we're not. John Duggan is here. John, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm the spoofer. How are you, Ger and Shane?
Very good.
Any story?
We have the Christmas decorations in front of you there today, John.
Yeah, happy Christmas, John.
Happy Christmas. And
are you feeling it yet?
No.
Are you not?
No, I'm a late developer, so I'll hit it. I'm
24th.
Maybe no. I'm going to try maybe the 18th, 19th to start my
the World Cup final day, 18th.
Yeah, if I'm off that day. That week I'll probably do a bit of work around the New Year, but that week I'll probably be getting up the Filofax and seeing who's around for the turkey and ham and a few pints around Dublin.
It's Culture Christmas. You wouldn't be aware of this, John, as a Jackeen, but Culture Christmas, December 8th, isn't it? We're on when all the bog men and women descend on Dublin City to do their shopping bits.
Down
Barracudas
in Switzers.
Yeah, into the ILAC Centre and Jervis and all the rest. And
the Jervis didn't exist.
Sorry, it didn't exist. There's a lot of checkered shirts and brown boots in Dublin on December 8th.
It's like a Garth Brooks.
It is, as Ger would know. Speaking of checkered shirts.
Yeah, it's like.
And what country in Africa is this today that you're wearing?
I actually bought it, as I said before, in Ethiopia, but I'm going to get behind maybe Ghana. Well, Senegal, if it counts as Senegal, they play England next, of course, so I'm lumping into them. I'm all for Senegal. I'd love to see an African team get to a semi-final. Don't know if it'll happen necessarily. Morocco probably the best bet, John, as you said beforehand.
So they could top the group today.
Yeah.
And if they beat an eliminated Canada and it ends in a draw between Croatia and Belgium, I really dislike the commercialism around Christmas, which is I'm really finding the ads very difficult.
Really?
Yeah, finding it very difficult.
Even the ones that are designed to make you cry.
Yeah.
If I can't do it.
Well, John Lewis ad or the
No, I just can't.
Holidays are coming.
The commercialism, I can't do it.
What about the Guinness one?
No, I hate it.
Don't forget to turn the lights off.
No, can't do it.
The one with the reindeer that makes the kids cry. It's not really Santa's reindeer, and then it turns out it actually is.
Yeah.
I mean, plot twist! It is Santa's reindeer. Amazing!
It's just this year, John. You're feeling like Scrooge.
I kick into gear and I'm fine from about the 18th, 19th, and by Christmas Eve I'm really going for it. And then by the time the racing comes around, I love it, but just not now.
I find the earlier you start it, the happier your life can be.
maybe you're right. Maybe I need to reflect on that in the mirror later on.
You're like Santa's little helper in this.
Yeah, join in on Culture Christmas, John, on the 8th, and go into one of the shopping centres near you.
I just also find that because I think we all have the party animal, and the earlier you start, you really can get into wreckage territory. So I kind of like to start late when I'm off.
That's fair enough.
In the last week of it.
They call that wisdom, John.
Well,
it's acquired expensively.
Yes, and through lots of lessons of the past, and the ghosts of Christmas past that have haunted me.
Those hangovers aren't getting any better.
In that taxi driver, like Scrooged.
Danger Dave says, as an Australian, it's unbelievable that Leckie scoring was a blight on Denmark. He literally only has a left foot, and he's literally our only player. For Denmark not to know is terrible coaching. It was a pretty good goal.
It was a great goal on the break. I like Graham Arnold. I think he's a character. And he was actually Huddink's assistant, Gus Hiddink, in 2006 when they last reached the last 16, the only ever at the time. But they've never won 2 games at the World Cup. They have now. And the Sydney Morning Herald, I read it overnight, and they said, we can win the World Cup. Can we win the World Cup now? So the scenes in Melbourne at 3 o'clock in the morning were pretty amazing, and just, I suppose, illustrative of the fact that this is a global thing. Saudi Arabia, Argentina, Australia, and it is Argentina-Australia now on Saturday evening at 7. But you got to think with France and Argentina that they're into the last 8. I wasn't that impressed with Deschamps playing his B team. If Australia and Denmark had drawn, it would have probably knocked Australia out, with Tunisia winning. But I suppose it does make them fresher for the game against Poland.
I think they have to do it. It's not up to them to manage or care about the other
teams. Yeah,
I that's the vagaries of professional sport. They got their job done early. They get to go home early.
Yeah,
you're a big Man at Work fan, John, aren't you?
Who can it be now? Knocking at my door, Shane Hannon on the Sunday Gate.
I didn't realise we sound for it. Is this Melbourne?
Melbourne at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, which is pretty amazing. Obviously down there as well, this time of year it's nice and warm. So
a lot of Irish probably mixed in there somewhere.
Too hot?
Yeah.
These will be the scenes in Melbourne when the Irish women's team progress to the last 16 of the World Cup next July.
But I do like Man at Work. Down Under was recorded in 1981, and I don't think it reached number 1 in the UK until 83.
Oh.
So sometimes these songs can be a late bloomer.
Shifty Lad says, on my wall chart I had Denmark getting to the semis at least. Glad now I didn't throw a few bob each way on them.
Yeah, they don't have any strikers. They can't score goals. They haven't scored more than 2 goals in 12 years at a World Cup. They haven't won any of their last 6 games. It also punches a hole in the Nations League.
Yeah, because their form was brilliant.
Yeah, the Nations League, though, it's just a level above friendlies. And I know we've been placing a huge amount of importance on it here because it's harder for us to qualify in the conventional way. But it does punch a hole in the form of some of the topper teams in the Nations League, like England, for example.
That's why I was drawn into the Danish mirage before the World Cup.
Well, Uruguay as well. Now, Uruguay might pull it out, but that's unlikely. And they're having teams like that, and the Dutch have not been that impressive either. And I'd actually think that the USA will have a squeak against them on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, do you think Australia have a squeak against Argentina?
Not a hope.
Really? Not a hope?
Not a hope. I thought Argentina were really good last night. I think they're back in the conversation.
They're coming good. Are they back in the conversation?
Yeah, they are,
right.
yeah, for me, yeah. And I like that Lionel Scaloni has made changes, and he hasn't been afraid to shake it up. Like, he made 5 changes for the second game, 4 changes for the game last night. Pretty much a new midfield, like McAllister and Fernandez in there. And brought in Alvarez, who scored. They had 73% of the ball. Now, Poland were desperate. But Argentina, look, Messi's not who he was, but he still was dictating the rhythm of the game. Interesting, he still has those nerves. He was nervous over the penalty. And Szczesny had an amazing game.
So if Argentina beat Australia,
they're going to play the Dutch or the USA, and that's quite they're in an easy bracket now.
You'd like
comparable to other teams.
You'd like to see another Holland Netherlands classic at the knockout stages of a World Cup.
Yeah,
John, good stuff. Anything else?
Guys. No. Spain against Japan at 7. Costa Rica, Germany at 7. Germany and Belgium have to win today, folks. And I think Belgium could be going out of the World Cup today.
Happy Christmas, John.
Yeah, and to you.
Shane and Ger, we're going to say this. We're going to say this a lot
every day for another month. All right, more from John, of course, on Saturday afternoon on Off the Ball on News Talk. But at 8:50 this morning, we're turning our attention to rugby, and there are squally showers blowing through the English rugby system at the moment. I'm delighted to say Will Greenwood is with us to try and parse what it means. Will, good morning to you. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. Fascinating chat about the football. I missed yesterday's stuff. I'm just picking up on it now. So France got turned over, did they? Because they put a second team out.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right, but they got the job done and topped the group.
It didn't matter.
Right, okay. And England have got Senegal. Mate, we're on the way, aren't we? We're on the way. You must be supporting us.
It's coming home,
Yeah,
man.
exactly. That's how it works, right? We're all delighted for our neighbours.
Yeah, Wales and Scotland, they're all over us. Yeah. They've got the banners out. The St George flag. Thanks, guys.
It's funny that one of the things that is managing to keep the English football team off the back of the English newspapers this morning is...
the England cricket team scoring 257 and Zach Crawley getting a century this morning. Is that, yes?
Apparently, they have a bit of a bug in the squad at the moment, the cricket team. There's a bit of a bug in English rugby at the moment too.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of this guy before, David Pembroke, who works for Eddie Jones as an independent media advisor, but he was busy in the comments of the Times newspaper yesterday, insulting the chief executive of the RFU, and he's had to apologise to him. This is mad stuff. I've never seen anything like this before.
No, I know Bill very well. I'm not going to do an Arsene Wenger here. I was out with my day job and entertaining clients yesterday, so it seemed to have missed that furore. You might have to either fill me in or I'll have to dodge the question.
Well, I'm happy to fill you in because it is pretty interesting, right? So there was a story yesterday in the London Times about how the recently appointed ex-GB hockey coach was considering his position after 6 weeks. He's been working to try and improve the culture with the English rugby team, and there was also the team doctor he's leaving after the November internationals, and I don't know if it was scheduled or not, but that story was in the London Times.
Basically, the main story seems to be therefore that the high turnaround, the high churn within Eddie's team, I suppose, and is one of the accusations of how can players find sort of structure and consistency and understanding of message and clarity of thought. It's fine when you're beating the team by 30 points, or it's fine in the training session, but under pressure you sort of sink to the level of your training, and if your training's been inconsistent and varied and continues to change, then it is difficult to react to really good teams like Ireland, but in this particular instance South Africa, and for 72 minutes New Zealand. There's it's a really tough watch at the moment. England, I still turn up with hope, but amazingly I used to turn up with expectation at Twickenham, and that's a major transition for a fan. I was a Manchester City fan since 1981, and always it was the hope that killed me, and it's just a little bit like that at the moment with England rugby. We have absolutely no idea what's going to appear in front of us for 80 minutes at Twickenham, and we sort of hope for 40 minutes of good rugby, never mind sort of demanding 80.
Is there a fix for that?
So, I mean, I can understand that's a very short question with a long pause, asking me and hoping for me to go in one direction. I sort of, not a route I'm going to go down. If you want me to ask if the regime stays the same, what do they do? Look, they have to find exactly what I talked about: consistency, clarity, selection. If you spend time together in the saddle, in the centres with someone, you begin to understand their nuances, their idiosyncrasies. If I'm allowed to sort of talk about the relationships I had with my chap who's just come fourth in the jungle, Tyndall, you really begin to understand what their strengths and weaknesses are by playing day in, day out. We would occasionally rotate in and out with Mike Catt. I've played with Mike since under 21s, so by the time the World Cup came around, I'd spent 11 years playing with Mike Catt, and those sorts of relationships sometimes are more important than picking the best players. Now, I'm not saying we weren't the best players, but actually to stick with a group and pick them, which to then revert back to the sort of England cricket team with McCullum and giving the opportunity to Zach Crawley, where others may have gone, you know what, it's done, but actually having that confidence as a player that the coach has your back, it is crucial. I mean, I haven't heard, and again, I've been missing because I don't work in rugby as much as I used to. Tommy Freeman, for example, been injured, been playing really well, comes in and doesn't reappear for the second half. I don't actually know. I mean, not that many played well in the first half. I don't actually know what he did wrong. He didn't do a huge amount right, but neither did anyone else. And I think those are the sorts of moves that make it difficult to understand and therefore tough to love.
There's talk, Will, that this RFU review might be heavily influenced by the players. The players will be asked what their opinion is of Eddie Jones. Is that the right thing to do? Should players have a say?
Well, I mean, if you can only sort of judge it against your own team. If we did a review in our day, I mean, everyone assumes we all love Sir Clive. I love Sir Clive. He picked me. There was, if I'm a squad of 30, there's 15 lads who didn't love him because he didn't pick them. He put them on the bench or they weren't even in the squad. So it's always a dangerous one. But I do think it's important to get a diversity of opinion and an opinion from those who work most closely with. I think, as always, there will be the extremes. There'll be some big noise, and they have to, a little bit like, is it the ice skating marks, referees, they remove the bottom two and the top two and go with the interquartile range. I love a little bit of math, and that tends to be in the bell curve where the vast majority of the messaging will come through. So yeah, I think it is important. I think there's always a sliding scale of weight to it, and to what weight you index and attribute player feedback. But if player feedback and noise is for all our messages publicly of coherence and strong culture, privately isn't, then again it would make things difficult to continue. If it comes out as super strong and super positive and they'd go to war for Eddie, then that has to be considered in amongst the results.
It does seem like any one of a number of outcomes is on the table here, which hasn't traditionally been the case with a lot of these reviews. You would have felt like, okay, we're going to do our review, and at the end of it we'll recommend that we all try and do a little bit better, and we'll all try and do that little bit better collectively. That's not the case this time for whatever reason. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like that outcome where there might be a split is at least on the cards, or as an option, or on the table rather than on the cards, maybe.
Yeah, look, I think the RFU would have been confident or hopeful that by winning a series in Australia, which is not as good as winning a series in New Zealand, obviously, but still winning a series in the Southern Hemisphere would have put these discussions to bed. Like with all things, noise, media noise, understanding what's going on has a marginal impact on players. They're not daft. They can listen to it. They understand what's going on. And again, any sort of turbulence, I think you said that you used the word squall, any sort of squall in and around camp and batting off questions like this in the build-up to the Six Nations will detract from the total focus of playing. And if it detracts from the total focus of playing, then you don't perform as well as you would have done. You want to quieten that noise as much as possible. So that's the problem the RFU have. They have huge decisions to make. I'm not going to be drawn on what I would do, but there needs to be a dramatic improvement in play. Otherwise, England, who have been given a very, very favourable draw, and that is without being in any way disrespectful to Argentina, Japan, Wales, Australia, our side of the draw. But were England currently in your side of the draw with South Africa, New Zealand and France, England would be about 50-1 to get past the quarterfinals. As it is, even with what's going on, I think we're probably pretty solid favourites to make a semi, to make a semi-final, which is extraordinary to think when we've had the run of results we've got here. And that's another factor that has to be taken into account. If you don't know where to go next or what to do or who to bring in, then you can gamble. You can gamble on the fact that the World Cup draw has offered, again, these words will come back and bite me, but have offered England a very nice opportunity to play decently well without knocking it out of the park and find themselves playing in a semi-final. I mean, I think even an Irish fan would probably go, I wish we could swap places with England.
Oh, yes.
In the pool stages.
We're very jealous. But I think the Welsh are thinking the same and the Australians are thinking the same. You know, form isn't great, but put together 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, and that has to be factored into what's going on, because England are planning, and they are planning now for who takes over from Eddie after the World Cup. They will have a handover a smooth transition. They will have identified their man, or are currently identifying their man with Conor O'Shea. I believe it's either Ronan, Scott Razor Robertson, Steve Borthwick, or an other. I think there's a fourth in the pot. And they will have an idea of how that will follow through smoothly. The last thing you want to be doing is changing anything 12 months in advance. But as South Africa proved in 2018, 2019, there's always time. So, it's an inbox, a full inbox for Bill Sweeney, probably not helped by the gentleman talking yesterday about stuff. But you have to have a thick skin if you're a CEO, and that's the same if you're running BT, Sky, or a sports team.
One last question: if they were to make a change, would that galvanise support? Like, what's when you're recording your videos, and everybody should follow you on your various social platforms to see your post-match reaction. When you're done that and you're talking to the fans afterwards, there's obviously like a disconnect with the team at the moment. But is it possible that can get turned around quite quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I think you only have to look at sort of football to understand a manager gets removed, the next manager comes in, and they win the next two with the sort of, you just hope it's not, and I hope this is an appropriate phrase, a dead cat bounce, which is the sort of classic, quick uplift, but then back down again. So certainly what does a corporate hospitality function of 500 tell you? It gives you a straw poll, and certainly there is a massive disconnect currently now between fans and the team. My great friend, I shall spare his blushes, but has played rugby all his life, was a decent player, has watched England all his life, left at half-time, which is an inconceivable thought from my great friend. And if he's leaving at half-time, the bellwether, the barometer is not good for what England are doing on and off the pitch.
Will, great to have you with us. Thanks a million.
Cheers, guys.
It's Will Greenwood there, giving us some really interesting insight into how things are going at the moment.
That is a disconnect. Like, I mean, you heard the boos at the end of the full time of the South Africa game in Twickenham, and you're thinking, this isn't normal. To hear the reaction of the English fans, that's pretty rare, but it's becoming all the more common. These boos and the attitude of the England fans, they don't look happy and sound happy.
We are so far steeped in blood that returning were as tedious as gore. It's Macbeth, right? It's like, we've killed so many people now, we can't go back.
Exactly.
But actually, that ends badly for Macbeth. Oh. That ends really badly.
It does.
If he stopped and turned around and went, look, I'm really sorry, I've been having hallucinations. This whiskey has been driving me crazy. Maybe things would have been better.
True. I have this terrible sinking feeling, as you point out, the side of the draw that England are on, that it could easily be in a World Cup final.
Absolutely.
And who knows then what could happen from that point on.
Their scrum takes over and they beat France or New Zealand.
I mean, or us, or us. Who knows? Ireland-England World Cup final, let's have it.
Oh yeah.
Called it now, December 2022.
Scott Robertson in charge.
Yeah.
I don't think, I don't know what I expected when Will agreed to come on. I figured that because he's been very pro Eddie Jones up to this point, but when you hear somebody like that who's like, look, I have thoughts, but I know that if I was to express them, that it would have an impact on all this, and that's like, that's
it's a sign. And then you're hearing, I was reading Ellis Genge talking as well, and he's pointing out Eddie knows that the performances in November were his fault, and he feels terrible about them, but that's no good.
No.
You feel terrible about them, but I mean, something has to be done about it.
What's Genge going to say?
Of course, it's his manager.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fair point.
So anyway, I didn't get to read out David Pembroke's comments. He works as Jones' independent media advisor, and in a comment on the Times website, there's only one question now, and it's a question of governance, Pembroke wrote. The chairman of the RFU must ask the CEO of the RFU, that's Bill Sweeney, did he or persons on his behalf leak the information published in the Times today by Owen Slot about the hockey coach and the doctor? Simple. If answer is yes, Slippery Bill is a goner. So Slippery Bill is in quotes there, as in somebody else might call him Slippery Bill. I don't know who. Just to reiterate, David Pembroke, who has worked as Jones' independent media advisor throughout his tenure as England coach.
I mean, that's fairly scathing, like damning.
This is a guy who works in the media, who understands how the media worked, and he's commenting on a story like, no, the real story here is that somebody leaked this stuff.
Yeah, and those
you better investigate this, chairman of the board. Investigate your CEO who employs the guy who I am an independent contractor for.
If you're a media guy, you know that the PR hit of leaving a job after 6 weeks is going to be fairly damning, and it's not going to look good for Eddie Jones, but yet it has happened. So what does that tell you about the situation within English rugby?
He then apologised to Bill Sweeney afterwards. So it was definitely him. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I mean,
mea culpa.
A very interesting media strategy. Very, very on brand for Eddie Jones, who also at one point in the middle of it said, well, the CEO is going to have his opinion informed by you guys in the media. It's like, what? Do you think he's not going to have his own opinion? He's not going to be able to just look at the game and go, oh, this South African team who are good but not great. A lot of injuries, a bit of inconsistency in selection and performance so far over this. They just hammered us. But he's going to read it in the papers and he's going to make his mind up what he thinks.
It's tough to watch English rugby struggling, isn't it? Someone like Eddie Jones.
I want Eddie Jones to stay.
Yeah.
Keep Eddie Jones, he's great.
You want to watch him squirm and do terribly over the next 12 months. It remains to be seen. But I mean, the decision has to be made soon if it is going to go that way. Before the Six Nations.
Drag it out for a couple of weeks. We're enjoying this.
Maybe, yeah. Happy Christmas.
Check out the Lunchtime Wrap today, bringing you all the latest sports news. It's with thanks to Deliveroo. Check out the app for some great match day meal deals across the World Cup. Deliveroo, food, we get it. Here's what we got on OTB Sports Radio today. 1 o'clock OTB Gold. Jack McCaffrey. Leaders' questions with Stuart Lancaster at 3. Our retro panel is leaders and captains at 4. Nigel Mansell at 6 is OTB Gold. And the show's live tonight with Nathan. He'll be joined by John Giles as usual of a Thursday, plus much more besides. It feels like a very fast-moving World Cup at the moment. It's coming thick and fast now. Mm-hmm. It slows down after this to the bit where, it doesn't really.
It goes straight into the last 16, but then you've got a 2-day gap before the quarters.
The last 16 is like...
Yeah.
Oh!
It's just upon you.
Yeah.
Those 2 days are going to be quite sad with no football. We're going to not know what to do with ourselves, but we'll find something to keep ourselves occupied.
Up next, Anna Harrington of the Australian Associated Press joins us live from Melbourne to reflect on an incredible day at the World Cup for Australian football. First, Fiona Hayes and Gordon Darcy were with Joe last night on Wednesday Night Rugby, talking about Ronan O'Gara's coaching future following his links with the England job.
According to Midi Olympique, that Ronan O'Gara is extending his stay at La Rochelle to 2027. His current deal runs out 2024. Now, I don't know if there are release clauses or not. He was certainly on the 3-man shortlist with Steve Borthwick and Scott Robertson. But it does seem, Fiona, as if we're not going to have to look at Rog in a white tracksuit banging his desk as England beat Ireland. So relief for everyone, I think.
Yeah, relief. Look, for him personally, I'm sure it would have been a great career move, because obviously we have to look at the World Cup, but England, I suppose, aren't playing the most exciting rugby at the minute. And it would be great for someone, whoever goes in there next. I'm sure they will have a big influence on that squad, be it after the World Cup, I would imagine. So it would have been great for him personally. But I don't think for any Irish supporter looking at Ronan O'Gara in a white tracksuit up in that coaching box, it would have been, it would have had smiles on the face, and especially not down in Munster. I can tell you that. I've gotten a few texts asking people, am I in the know? Is he going to be doing it? I said, I know absolutely nothing, but we'll see in the future what'll happen.
Yeah, I would think, Gordon, so let's take the reports, and they are just reports in France at the moment at face value from Midi Olympique. Say he extends to 2027. Your sense of his trajectory, I could understand a real temptation to get in and involved at test level ASAP. He seems to be showing a degree of patience here.
Yeah, well, he's a very calculated person, so all of his moves have been quite strategic and moving along. And I suppose you don't necessarily want to rush away from a good thing. Very well supported by the club, and they have a big budget as well. So the being able to coach that quality of players, you don't necessarily walk away from it. It's very hard to walk away from that, where you have that quality of players at your disposal. And you really, I suppose, the international stage can be a graveyard for new coaches.
Yeah.
So, if you do well, it can, copper fasten your credentials as I take an emotion completely out of this and saying, forget about if he's playing, has played for Munster and has ambitions to coach Ireland, is Irish and all that kind of sentiment around it. if you don't do well in your first international coaching job, it can be very hard to pick up the pieces. And even coaches that do well internationally, if they have a bad end to their career, find it hard to get new jobs. I'd say Stuart Lancaster and that English coaching ticket are the exception rather than the norm.
Yeah.
AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
From the good, Neymar can push the ball between your legs because he just sees things.
To the not so good.
Hold on, this now affects football. We'll have to find another way to protest like it was that bad.
That's right, it's the 2022 World Cup. Off the Ball will bring you the best insight and analysis, as well as the big stories off the pitch from the World Cup in Qatar.
All 11 players from both sides walk on the line back. Send us all off. Good.
Subscribe to the OTB Football Podcast feed now.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
This is the part of the World Cup that's very difficult for us because we're so jealous. Now we're going to Melbourne to make us even more jealous. Anna Harrington, good morning to you. Good evening. Good night to you. How are you?
Oh, g'day guys. How you going? Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's pretty happy times in Melbourne. We're all pretty bleary-eyed, and I reckon I've slept about 3 hours in the last 24. But yeah, it's a pretty good time to be an Australian football fan over here.
Yeah. How expected or unexpected is it? Does that actually add to the whole thing as well? What were your level of expectations heading into this?
Oh, totally unexpected. I think, especially when you play France. I think going into this, it's interesting. We played two of the same teams from our group 4 years ago, obviously France and Denmark. And last time around we drew with Denmark. And I think this time, because we had a bit of a rocky road through the qualifiers, obviously it went off so long because of COVID. We had to go through the playoffs and all the way obviously to that penalty shootout against Peru. I think people came in with low expectations, thinking we wouldn't get out of the group or we'd struggle to get out of the group and maybe struggle to pick up points. I mean, six points is beyond anyone's expectation. It's the most we've ever got. It's the first time we've won 2 games at a World Cup, won back-to-back games at a World Cup. We scored in all 3. I mean, the golden generation in 06 only got 4 points, and it was a tough group, obviously. But yeah, it's sort of exceeded anyone's expectations, and yeah, just I think probably beyond people's wildest dreams, to be honest. And I think if you look at those scenes in Fed Square and the way it's just built throughout the week, that was 2 a.m. that game kicked off here in Melbourne. So yeah, it's a buzz and it's fantastic for the game here.
How many people are there? We're rolling some scenes from that now. It does look like, I mean, it could be a Turkish rivalry, one of those. It looks like, you know, all-time great football scenes. The flares are going. It's dark. Everybody is off their heads on joy. It's amazing. How many people are at that?
Yeah, there was thousands. Like, it's quite incredible. Like Fed Square, to give some context, is across the road from Flinders Street Station, which would be like our main central station in Melbourne. It's been used to show games on the big screen. They use it in Australian Open and that as well, I think, sometimes. But in 2006, when they went on that run, the Socceroos, Fed Square was getting packed, and it's sort of been a bit of a home. And I think the talk initially was they weren't maybe looking at doing games, you know, showing the games there, and people really pushed for it, and it's just exploded in popularity. Yeah, just thousands of people. It was interesting watching on our host broadcast at SPS. John Aloisi, obviously the Socceroos hero, he was in 06 in Kaiserslautern. He wasn't there, obviously, because he was playing, and he was at Fed Square last night and was just saying it's incredible. It feels like a whole new generation of people have been inspired by it. It's it's fantastic. It shows, you know, people don't always talk about us as a football country, but the thirst for it, the hunger for it's there. And when our national teams do well, people turn up, right?
So Melbourne's like the seat of Aussie rules power. Is that right?
Correct. I think you guys would know us pretty well for nicking a few of your your GAA athletes and pinching them down here in Melbourne. But yeah, Aussie rules sort of reign supreme. You know, there's been things like when we've had World Cup bids, like we've obviously got the Women's World Cup next year, the MCG isn't available, the Marvel Stadium or the Dockland Stadium isn't available. When we were pushing for this current World Cup, actually, it was quite difficult. Footy or AFL reigns supreme down here, but never see scenes like that for any sport, to be honest. Like, especially, like, I know the time difference is why it's at 2 a.m, but yeah, just the passion and the way people have turned out for it and the way people are getting behind it. It's pretty incredible. There's a strong, you know, love of football here in Melbourne, and, you know, people love sports. We have the Australian Open, and all sorts going on here, the summer of cricket. But yeah, just the turnout was pretty incredible. And now they're actually managing to get some live sites up elsewhere in the country, especially in Sydney, who didn't really have one as, prolific as this one for this game against Argentina, which is going to be actually 6 a.m. Sunday, our time. So it's going to be like perfect. Yeah. I guess it'll be breakfast instead of, there might be some that go all night. You never know.
Yeah, there's always one.
But yeah, there's always a few. So, no, it's a great buzz here.
Can I ask you a question about that, Anna? Our sports culture has this weird nonsense rivalry where some sports fans hate other fans of other sports, and sometimes it flares up and sometimes it's repressed, like a lot of things in Irish life. Do the Aussie Rules fans hate the football fans? Do the cricket fans get on with everybody? Do the rugby league fans, are they haughty? What's that social stratosphere like?
Oh, you get what people would call code wars, where there's people who follow one sport who can't stand another. You get plenty of people like myself. I'm obviously a sports journo, but I've got a lot of, I follow the AFL, I follow the football. I think you get quite a few people who follow both, but there's certainly, competition for the same group of fans. And I think for football fans in Australia, or soccer fans, as many would say here, they maybe feel that they sort of get overlooked, or the sport is sort of sidelined in favour of things like AFL and those sorts of things, which are massive. They have massive supporter bases. AFL in particular, and up north it's more rugby league. Rugby union not quite so, doesn't have quite such a presence. But yeah, I think especially AFL in Melbourne, there's a real feel of rivalry. A lot of people do like both sports, but there's certainly competition within the sports, for talented junior athletes. Especially we've seen it with women's sport as well, like with obviously the Matildas, who play your girls next year, really taking off, and a lot of other women's sports taking off. There's also competition for athletes there. So it's probably a similar thing where every sport wants a piece of, the advertising, the crowds, the talented athletes coming through, and people are very loyal to their clubs and their sports. But yeah, there certainly can be a bit polarising.
That Matt Leckie goal, Anna, feels like a massive moment for Australian football, soccer. I mean, it's one of those, like, we, I guess, in this country have moments from World Cups, Sheedy, Houghton, Keane, massive goals that we all remember where we were. That Matt Leckie goal feels like such a significant moment in similar terms for Aussies.
Yeah, I guess the way people have talked about it, we didn't score a goal from open play, I don't think, at the last World Cup, but the Tim Cahill goal against Japan in Kaiserslautern is the one that, people always scored two, but like the first one is where there's probably a where were you moment. And before that, the penalty shootout against Uruguay, where Schwarzer makes those saves and John Aloisi scores the winning penalty. They've probably been the defining moments for Australian men's football and Australian football in terms of especially the last 20-something years. But yeah, this has to go up there. I mean, we're into the round of 16. We got 6 points. As I said, it's something we haven't achieved before. It was just an incredible goal, wasn't it? Like, he's from Melbourne as well, so I think a lot of people have a soft spot for him down here. He plays for Melbourne City actually here. But just the way he took that goal and the way he just sent the Danish defender on a bit of a spin cycle was incredible, and the finish was just wonderful. I think, yeah, considering how lethargic especially they looked at the start of that game, and some real backs to the wall stuff, to pull off a goal like that, and it's such a special goal, it's certainly, I agree, going to be one of those moments where you go, where were you when you're maybe in Fed Square, maybe you're in Qatar, or maybe like a lot of people, you're on the couch or in the pub. It's it's going to be a moment that goes down in history. And I think, they've really got nothing to lose, right? Argentina, no one expects them to win. Not many expected them to beat Denmark, so they can go into it, and it's a really exciting moment.
One goal though can change all, because reading after the match, I think it was on ABC in Australia, where they were like, if Matt Leckie's career had ended yesterday, people wouldn't have known what to have made of him. Like, he's a hard worker, a good runner in that Australian team, but the goal just becomes iconic and changes all.
Yeah, it's interesting because he has actually had a really, really good career. He went over to the Bundesliga and was a regular there for a long time, which is I think, easy feat, especially when you've come over from Australia. He's come back, because of his family and wanting to be back in Melbourne. And he sort of took a while to get back into our domestic league here and hit form, but he's really been flying this past season. But yeah, he's always been really super reliable. He sort of said it himself best, that it's his third World Cup. which is pretty incredible. And he's had chances to score, and they've not fallen that way for whatever reason. And then when he got this one, he took it. And he, to be honest, he looked absolutely out of puff, like a lot of the Australians early in this match. And to make a run like that, it was a lovely ball as well from Riley McGree, but to make a run like that and then to finish so wonderfully, it's a real testament to him. He is probably one of the underrated figures of Australian football, but now, like you say, kind of gets his spot in, I guess, the legacy of it all.
Graham Arnold's legacy is fairly secure now after this as well. Heading into the tournament, I understand people were a little bit uncertain about him. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he's been polarising. He's had such a long history with Australian football and the Socceroos. He was caretaker before. It was 2007 and it didn't go so well. And then he had a really good club career in the A-League here with Sydney FC especially, but also the Central Coast Mariners. And he got the job. Obviously, Ange Postecoglou left. We had Bert van Marwijk took over on an interim basis, and Arnold was always going to take over. And I feel like you've got these different schools in Australian football, and people really loved Ange Postecoglou, and we know what he's doing now in Celtic and what he did in Japan and the way he played, that really fearless, attacking football, all costs. Maybe people see Arnie or Graham Arnold's a bit more pragmatic. And he was sort of in a really tense spot when Australia didn't qualify directly, like finished below Japan or Saudi Arabia and Japan, and had to go through the playoffs. There was question marks over his future. Would Football Australia look to go in a different direction? But obviously they got through the playoffs, and he pulled off that masterstroke in picking Andrew Redmayne for the penalty shootout against Peru. And then he was always going to go to the World Cup from there. But you can't deny what he's done. There's, as with every team, I'm sure there's question marks over, should this player have been selected? Should this one have missed out? But he's been vindicated with his man management and the players he's backed and the style. And I thought he pulled off a really smart move I think it was at halftime today when he brought on Keanu Bacchus for Craig Goodwin, who'd been exceptional in the first two games, and it just re-energised that midfield, pushed Riley McGree forward, and McGree got the assist. He's bar the France game, where I think the criticism was Australia was very conservative after the goal and really sat deep, and it clearly didn't work out. The past two games have, done everything they had to. And yeah, it's backs to the wall, it's hard work, but World Cups aren't always going to be pretty football, right? So yeah, I think he's not necessarily going to turn everyone into his fans, but he deserves a lot of credit, and he's going to, like I said, with Lecky, he's making his own mark in Australian football history, and he deserves it. He's backed himself in, his players have backed him in, and whether he carries on, I imagine that's going to be his choice entirely now after this World Cup. You have to think the contract will be there, his players are keen for him to stay on. Yeah, he's done brilliantly, and I think he deserves every bit of credit he gets.
How is the A-League getting on at the moment?
Yeah, it's not going too badly. It's I think the big games get big crowds. The smaller ones, there's still some question marks over the crowds there. I think the standard has improved over the years. You get some really entertaining games. We've got a lot of young players coming through. I think expansion has helped in that regard. The obvious one people talk about is young Garang Kuol, who's signed for Newcastle in the Premier League and will be heading over there in January and will probably get loaned out. But yeah, there's a lot more young players coming through. There's quite a few Socceroos that are playing there now. But I think the really exciting thing was a huge chunk of this team that are in Qatar at the moment and that have achieved this milestone came through the A-League or have played here at some point and have either had their development years in Australia or have come back. Or Jason Cummings, the former Scottish international, came to the A-League and reinvented his career, right? So it's really exciting in that sense. There's always going to be some toing and frying, I think, things that can be improved upon. But as far as providing a development pathway for these Socceroos, I think most people will be pretty excited about what it's done.
I hadn't realised until recently, Anna, that Graham Arnold's number 2 is René Meulenstein, who Manchester United fans will recognise as first team coach under Alex Ferguson for many years at Old Trafford. So a lot of experience there.
Yeah, a lot of experience there. And they seem to work really well together. And I think Meulenstein was the one that was sort of based in Europe and in England doing the scouting and doing the work during COVID when Graham Arnold was based in New South Wales. And also when when Graham had COVID. He had COVID twice during the World Cup qualification period. Like, it was a pretty brutal run between the travel, the delays, the postponements, the going into hubs, and then players having to do heavy quarantines when they came home. Graham Arnold got COVID twice, and Millenstein had to coach in his stead. It was it's been a fair old journey for them both, I think.
Where does this team rank now? You mentioned the 06 generation of Cahill, Kewell, Viduka. Like, is this the new golden generation in Australian football?
That's what Graham Arnold was saying today. Do we talk about this as a new one? I mean, on points they've surpassed them, but there's something, I don't want to say mythical, but there's something like aspirational about the golden generation. You had so many players playing in top leagues in Europe. You had like genuine stars, like when you think you had Viduka and Kewell and Cahill all in that, sort of attacking slash midfield mix, like incredible, Mark Bresciano, so much talent, and it battered so deep. And I think a lot of people say, like, if they'd qualified for, 98 or 2002, maybe we would have seen more of the golden generation really take centre stage. But I think in terms of what they've achieved here, fantastic. And I'd love to see them go on with it. I'd love to see them kick on, Asian Cup again, if they can get another win there. I think it doesn't have maybe the mystique and the allure of the golden generation per se, but I think maybe they've shifted a lot of people's perceptions on where Australian football is and what they can achieve and the talent of some of these players, because that Denmark team was not short of talent. And a lot of these guys like Harry Sutter, you'd have to think will be in the Premier League sooner rather than later. He's been just a rock for Australia. You look at the way Jackson Irvine's played, and Aaron Moore's been old faithful, reliable, and there's a lot to like about what some of these players have been able to do. And I mentioned Matt Leckie, of course. I think he and Craig Goodwin Goodwin's outstanding in the first two games, but Leckie's been very good in all three. So it's not the golden generation, like in terms of the profile and maybe the overall quality of the team, but yeah, as I say, I think they're certainly shifting some perceptions. I think there'd be a lot of people who maybe aren't strong followers of Australian football who would have queried how far this team could go. And I think even people who followed it closely would have queried that. So, yeah, they're certainly making a name for themselves in their own right, I guess.
Give us your prediction for the Argentina game.
Oh, I have to go with Australia, don't I?
You kind of do, yeah.
I won't be very popular at home if I don't. As I said, like, you can lose, obviously, but it's a free hit. We saw what Saudi Arabia were able to do against Argentina. Like, it's not like they're some sort of mythical beast team that are just steamrolling everyone. They've had their struggles. So I think Australia will back themselves. Both teams are going to be short on rest. It's going to be tough. It's going to be gritty. Like, I don't envy the Australian defence having to deal with Lionel Messi running at them, but you never know. I don't think there'll be any clean sheets. Let's go. Maybe it'll be 1-1 and it'll go to extra time and Australia will jag one. Let's go with that.
There
if
you go.
Score 2, that'd be nice.
Sounds like an all-time classic. Anna, great stuff. Thanks a million.
Thank you so much for having me, and take care, guys.
That's Anna Harrington there on the line from Melbourne this afternoon, her time, this morning, our time.
Yeah, when she said the game earlier today, I was like, oh yeah.
Was it today? What? Was it yesterday?
I was so confused. For her, I guess it was.
We're live every morning with Gillette in association with Movember. Effortless shave, magnificent mo. You can sign up or donate now at Movember.com. We have Kevin Kilbane live from Qatar tomorrow. We're going to hear from Anya Kinsella, Wexford's new senior men's football assistant manager, and plenty more as well. The mob needs to go after Shane. Denmark will win it. Fred will be player of the tournament, says Dennis Ryan. Expect a pile-on.
I was expecting this hit. At least I wasn't sitting on the fence, lads. Come on. I know I'm getting abuse for this, but I mean, I just felt Denmark based on Nations League. I'm not the only person who predicted Denmark as dark horses, let's be honest.
Bruce Robbo fan club says John Duggan increases the IQ quotient to at least 200% every time he appears.
Don't know what that says about me and you, but
there you go.
Yeah.
In fairness, France had to make changes. They've had more injuries than anybody else. I still think Spain will win it, says Peter M. Yeah, I think they were right to do it. It's no one's going to remember that match apart from in Tunisia, obviously. Tovar Tovarsky says Argentina has no midfield. Di Maria, Otamendi and Messi are over the peak. The rest is just bang average. Just take a look at this, lumberjack.
So that there's a point in what
anti-footballer Paul.
There's a blueprint there, Ger. There's a blueprint for beating Argentina that Australia can just follow now. It's been done this tournament.
Well, and he has made lots of changes to that team. Yeah. I like, none of the teams are so good that you expect them to hammer anybody.
No.
Like even the French, when they're playing really well, like we went 1-0 up against them in the Euros.
Yeah, they scraped past Denmark as well.
Long time ago. It's a different team.
Yeah, there's no world beaters. Like Spain are the only team that have really beaten anyone by a large margin in England as well.
The Danes were really good after they scored.
Yeah.
There was like a 15-minute period there where you're like, oh, Denmark are going to do something here. Mm-hmm. And then, like, if they could have got out of it anyway.
Someone during this week said no World Cup winner has ever been perfect, and I think that's a fair point. Every single team in this World Cup has a weakness. Even France, even Brazil, even Argentina, they all have weaknesses, and that's something that the likes of Australia can latch on to. Maybe Poland as well, playing France in the last 16, and even Senegal playing England. These teams have weaknesses. So one of them is going to fall.
Yeah, and one of those teams who isn't very good is going to go out and just say, lads, this is it. All of your entire life is going to be remembered for these 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Just go and do something magical.
No pressure. A free shot, as Anna said. Australia have a free shot against Argentina, and Messi's not the Messi he always was.
One of my favourite things about World Cups is talking to randomers from different countries, and we've done it a lot today. Yeah. We had Rasmus on from Denmark, we've had Anna on from Australia, and we'll definitely get them both back on again at some point in the future.
Yeah. Lars as well.
Yeah. Right, not a bad show. Good solid 8.5 out of 10, I think.
Yeah, solid World Cup show.
We're going to play out some Aussie Gleeson goodness in conversation with Joe Malloy about what life under Davy is expected to be like. Enjoy. We'll see you tomorrow.
Now you're welcome back. So you may have seen the news this afternoon. Ayr have been unveiled as a new official sponsor of the GAA Hurling All-Ireland Senior Championship. It's a 5-year deal. It begins with next season's championship. A man who will be very much part of the action joins us on the line now. Aussie Gleeson of Waterford. Great to have you on. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you, lads?
Yeah, great. Good to have you with us. So, very interested to talk to you. I remember you were in studio not long after the end of the 2017 season, I think, give or take, and we had a really good chat. And at that stage, you were still fresh-faced, still young, and you'd been Hurler of the Year in 16. And I remember you talked in a really interesting way about the weight of that title, Hurler of the Year, and trying to come to grips with it. So where is 27-year-old Austin Gleeson versus bright-eyed 21, 22-year-old Austin Gleeson?
I suppose he's a lot more mature anyway. I kind of learned the hard way of how to kind of figure things out. I suppose back then it was kind of naivety that kind of caught me out a good bit, thinking that I could go to this and go to that, but then I'd be all right in a few months and a few weeks or whatever.
You mean like socialising?
Yeah. I remember going to, like, I suppose in the off season, going to like different events and different things like that look, I didn't experience before. That caught up with me maybe in a year or two later, and took me a while to kind of get back. So that kind of naivety, I suppose, I learned the hard way from that.
Caught up with your fitness?
Yeah, caught up in fitness, caught up in, I suppose, weight and all that kind of stuff. And I've often spoke before about that, and it was something that I did learn the hard way, and I was putting on weight a lot easier. And maybe it was all because I was letting all this stuff, I suppose, get in on me, like I suppose, reading comments and stuff like that, and comments that I probably shouldn't have been reading, like just coming across it. But then even
coming across it because you're searching for it.
No, not searching for it at all. Like like I know there'd be no harm, but even family and friends saying, "Jesus, you see that comment?" When I didn't see the comment, but then they're still showing me kind of thing, and coming across it that kind of way, like, and maybe just thinking, is that person right? And leaving it get in on you, I suppose. So now, 27-year-old.
I know.
Sorry?
The nature of these things is, I guarantee you can still remember the type of comments, because we never forget these things. So I guarantee you can remember something that was said about you a couple of years ago that stuck in the mind. So what were the comments that almost had a pang of, oh, maybe they are right?
I suppose, like, maybe the weight side, or the weight side of things, and maybe the way I play on the edge, I suppose, and maybe a few sending offs and all that kind of stuff. Like, there was a good few of them kind of shown to me without even me seeing them, like, and I suppose nowadays that was 22, 23, 24-year-old Austin, but now 27-year-old, if anyone if anyone even tries to, I suppose, show me a few different comments or anything like that, I'm saying I feel like I'm mature enough to say, look, I don't want to see him. I don't care. I don't really care what people think anymore. I have a small circle of people that I trust, and a small circle of people that I'm willing to trust, and who I can reach out to, and who I openly talk to. Like, and I know they have my back as much as I have their back, and that's kind of the main thing that I've learned over the few years, that you keep your circle small. Don't open it up to a lot of people that only kind of want you for the success and stuff like that, you know.
So would you be more inclined now to turn down invitation here, invitation there, look after your fitness? Has that all been buttoned down as well?
Yeah. I've openly kind of turned down a few things, and I suppose in recent years, I suppose last year or two, kind of made sure that I was always on the right side of the fitness side of things. Like, obviously in the off season, having, I suppose, days out and group days out and club days out and stuff like that, go to them, no problem. But I wouldn't really kind of be doing the dog on it as much as I would have when I was younger, really. Which is something that I needed to do, because look, 27 now, and I'm going into my 10th season. The body, it catches up with the body, like, you know. So I needed to focus on making sure that I didn't get back to that place that I was, like, you know. And I feel like I have matured in the way to realise that, and to listen to people that are close to me in telling me that as well, you know.
That pizza and chips on the side hangs around the hips a bit more now. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, basically, yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying.
When you say you keep your circle small now, so I presume there are people you trust and you can seek their advice on how your hurling is. How am I playing? What are you seeing in my game? Who are some of those people, or do you talk about hurling with people?
Yeah, look, to be honest, those people I don't really talk too much hurling.
Right.
Too much about hurling to them, like that, and I think that's a. But if I needed to, I know I could reach out to them, you know. But just this small kind of group of friends, like, really, some club friends, some childhood friends, and some inter-county friends, like, you know, and then family then as well, like, you know. And
okay, so it doesn't have to be like an All-Ireland winning legend that you go and seek out. It can just be those more.
No, not at all.
And like, you trust their take on how you're playing.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would. Like, I wouldn't openly go. Like, I wouldn't overly go to him. I suppose, and talk hurling to him. It's more so outside the hurling thing that I prefer talking to him too, because it gets released from talking about hurling to everyone, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes hurling is over talked, and then you kind of not get bored of the hurling, but you kind of like. You're kind of like, I just need a break from it, kind of thing. So going to them people and just talking about quite literally anything else, no matter what it is, it kind of just gives you that bit of release, which is a good, like, you know. And even if it's an hour, just sit down and have a coffee, and you don't even talk about hurling, you talk about anything, the World Cup, soccer, Premier League, anything at all like that. Like, it's just that bit of relief, you know, which is good.
Because you're one of those players, and there are some of them around the country, because of what you've done in the past, because of the skills that you have, because of the way you can influence a game when a game goes your way. You're one of those players that after a Waterford game, even we do it here on the radio, you'll be delighted to hear. You're one of those players that will say, and how did Gleeson go? The same way, you know, like after a Galway game for years, and how was Canning? And so you have that microscope, whether you like it or not. And it's never really left you, even from 2016. After every Waterford game, I'm sure you hear it even local radio, local press. Gleeson was quiet today. That kind of stuff. And, well, I don't know. I sense from you that's sitting a little easier on your shoulders in so much as you can keep it at bay.
Yeah, definitely. Again, a few years ago, maybe I would have let that kind of sink in, but nowadays I'm not really, to be honest with you. I know myself if I have a good or a bad game, you know. I'm probably my biggest critic, and on the field, even if I have a good game, I still always notice the bad wide or a block or a hook that I should have got, or a tackle I should have got, or a pass that I should have gave. Like, I'm definitely my biggest critic. Like, and I don't need other people telling me if I was good, bad, or indifferent, you know, and that's kind of something that I look, again, I learned the hard way. Instead of seeing things and hearing things, you just talk to the people in that circle, you talk to the management, and you talk to your players that you play with. Like they're the ones that are fighting with you. And look, at the end of the day, they're the opinions you kind of have to take most, because they're in the fire line with you, you know. But yeah, I don't really go looking for anything, and I'm after learning to kind of pawn off the people that are trying to talk to me about, oh, you weren't great today or something like that. You just say, yeah, but look, we got to win, or like there's 14 other players in the field and that kind of stuff. I'm after learning to kind of just pawn it off as the conversation goes on a lot quicker than I used to, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to imagine a stranger coming up and telling you weren't that good today, but this is your world, I suppose.
It happens.
I'm sure it does. I guess there was plenty of pawning off across the summer, not least because Waterford were so brilliant in the league, and you made fools of us all, because during the league we were talking about big things for Waterford, and I suspect you all expected big things. Have you managed to figure out what went wrong in the championship?
Honest answer, no. We really haven't. Even in the days after, we kind of would have been talking to lads and saying, Jesus, what happened? And even meeting them throughout the summer, and even at club games, like even talking to them afterwards, you still don't know. Like, and I honestly can't answer. I don't think there's anyone in the squad that can answer, to be honest.
Physically, did you all feel as good? Because I wondered, have they trained especially hard early on and put a lot into the league, and there's a degree of fatigue because there wasn't much of a gap between league and championship? That was certainly one of the theories. Did you feel as energetic, as bouncing off the ground the way you would like in a championship game?
Personally, I did, to be honest. I felt okay, yes, but maybe I know coming into the Tip game, I was kind of I picked up an injury during the week, and I didn't know whether I was even going to make the panel, never mind the team. And I know personally on that day when I came on at half time, I was mentally tired because of the week I was after putting down on whether I'm going to make it or not. And I was delighted obviously when I made it, but I knew coming on that day that I was going to be, that I was mentally tired after 10, 15, 20 minutes, I suppose. And I know that's not the best way to be, but against Limerick then I felt grand because I knew my injury was gone, you know. But no, look, I do think certain players did feel a bit tired, and I do know other players didn't.
Right.
Maybe it's the workload that certain players put in, and maybe it's the workload that other players that didn't put in through having small niggles and stuff like that. Like, it's honestly just can't put my finger on it, and I don't think any lads can put their fingers on it either.
Because you were so good in the league. I mean, like so impressive in the league, and so explosive, and so many different players chipping in. It wasn't like it was a one-man effort. It just looked like everybody was poised to do something. And then a lot of us can remember even the finale to the round robin against Clare in Ennis, where I think they put 3-31 on you, but by half time Waterford were 13 points down. It was done, it was over, and it was just so hard to make sense of it.
Yeah, definitely. That day out in Clare, I know we made a good few changes, and we lost back centre back and Tyke actually went full back, and we lost Tyke after about 3 or 4 minutes to a calf injury. I don't know. It was just one of those days up in Clare. We seemed to have them up in Clare. I remember the first year the round robin, we played them first round up there as well, and I think we lost 6 players by half time, one standing off, and I think we had 4 injuries, 4 or 5 injuries by half time. I just don't think Waterford travelled to Clare very well. I've played up there now, I think 7 or 8 times. I've never won up there, you know. And
right.
I think maybe that could be a small thing about going to Clare, is like having a bad record up there. It might be sitting on the back of some people's heads, like, and I don't know. Maybe we need the results to go right in other places, but maybe we didn't believe that they would. I think we were just defeated going up there, to be honest with you. I think going into the Cork game, I still felt we were in an okay position. Then Cork came down and just tore into us and tore past us, really, and that was it. I think that gave us. I do think that gave us a small bit of a shock. And it was a quick turnaround within a week. Then losing a few players in the Cork game.
Yeah.
And then losing Tyke earlier on. I think it all just kind of came to a head then, I suppose, up in Ennis.
Well, it's a sprint then, isn't it? It must feel like you're just recovering from one game straight into the next and barely time to breathe or take a broader assessment of what's going on. Discipline, a feature for you this year, much talked about. I suspect you've been asked about it today in your various interviews. To jog people's memory, there was the red card at Nolan Park against Wexford ahead of the league final, so you missed the league. Simon Donoghue gives you a bit of a nudge towards the hoardings, little flick of your hurl, and then you strike back. Minimally enough, but enough to get a red, and you missed the Division 1 final. Give me your thoughts after that day.
Disappointed myself. Disappointed that I let the lads down. Disappointed I let the management down. I suppose we were a good bit ahead, and there's no need to kind of even. Look, I didn't mean to connect with him there. That's been honest. I know Simon. I went to college with Simon. Like, and there was a bit of chat between the two of us. Like, even throughout the game. Like, and it was just I don't know what came through my head, to be honest with you. It was just I didn't mean to hit him right on anyway. That's one short thing. I know it was minimal, but still it was a red card. You know.
Yeah.
I have no problem admitting that. But even the day after. There was talks about an appeal, and we done a recovery session the day after. I remember going to management not to appeal it. There were too much. I suppose maybe media attention or too much distraction within the camp. So we just agreed to not even try appeal it.
But that's interesting,
6 days to appeal.
Yeah, the read on that from outside, I didn't realise you'd gone to management to say not to appeal it, because the read from the outside was, oh well, this is Liam Callaghan management almost teaching Ozzy Gleeson a lesson. Like, he'll let him sit through the Division 1 final now, and that'll give him something to think about. So it's interesting you were quite happy with that move not to appeal as well.
No, I'll be honest, we talked about it Monday. I think it was the Monday evening, or I can't even remember, to be honest, what day it was, but we talked about it, and we kind of, well, it was a mutual thing. I didn't want to appeal it because I didn't want all the distractions for the lads. At the end of the day, I'm only one player of a panel of 35, 36, like, so. I knew the next man in it do just as good a job as I was doing, like, so I didn't want to appeal it that way. The lads just kind of said kind of similar, you know, and look, it was my own fault, maybe. I know the outside perception thought that was a punishment from Liam, saying that we're not going to appeal it, but no, it was 100% mutual. I don't think any of us made the full decision. We came to the decision ourselves, like, and that was it.
Yeah. The red against Cork, or the second yellow against Cork, have you ever watched that back on TV as a matter of interest?
No, I actually haven't, no.
Right, well, here's an interesting thing, because perception is reality as much as anything. So, again, the camera doesn't capture it brilliantly. I'm not even too sure what happened. It's yourself and Robert Downey, and end up on the ground, and you're on a card, and you get another card. But it is very interesting. In the commentary, Brendan Cummins was on with Marty Morrissey, and he says, but this is before you got the card, he says, for once, Austin might be the innocent party here. Yeah. So the perception, I think, is out there, you know, for once Austin might be innocent. And I don't know if he deserved a second yellow for that. I couldn't see the incident very clearly, but that perception's hanging over you now. And that, you know, you get a reputation for getting up early, you sleep in as long as you want. You probably have an uphill battle with referees at the moment. Yeah.
Look, I can't argue, or I can't disagree with the comment. Like, at the end of the day, I'm the one that put myself in that position. It's something that I suppose I need to work on. I get attention in games and I don't react probably 90% of the time. Yeah. But then one or two moments of madness then give me that perception, like, you know, and there might be other players think like maybe think the same or the same boat or whatever. But it's an uphill battle, and it's something that I suppose I need to work on with the management we have now, of maybe small little trigger things that if something happens, just to walk away or and not react, I suppose. And look, I do think I'm better at it than I was a few years ago. But again, it came at maturity. But still, like, stupid little things that always seem to get me caught. Like, and I remember lying on the ground actually during that moment against Cork and thinking, like, I can't do anything here. So that's when I just lit there with my arms out.
Yes.
then
you did, yeah.
If I do something here, I'm going to get sent off. So that's why I just stopped, and I still got sent off. So yeah, maybe the perception is caught me there, or the reputation caught me there. Like, you know,
how, as a matter of interest, so you need to play your best stuff. You need to be fired up, and you need to be ready to go, and you need to be physical. So like we talk here in the cold light of day, it's, of course you're going to say, look, moment of madness, a bit stupid, and everybody, you know, like understands, and that's fair enough. How do you work on it so that when you're in the white heat of championship, that you can have a trigger or have something that kind of pulls you back from the brink? How do you actually go about working on that, besides saying, oh yeah, I must do better next time?
As I was saying, probably find that little trigger between maybe myself and maybe management or whoever is working with us.
Have you ever had a trigger before that did the job for a while?
No, to be honest with you, no.
Okay.
No, all people are saying is don't react, and kind of thing. And maybe the trigger is probably the way to go. But again, just trying to figure out what that is the next step on it. Like, you know.
Yeah. Well, look, we're talking about this in very grave terms. It's not like you're committing a crime. I mean, it's a foul on a hurling pitch, so we can go overboard as well. What do you do Monday to Friday, Aussie, away from hurling? What's taking up most of your time in life? I don't know too much about what you're doing away from the hurling field.
Yeah, I work with TQS Integration, who are actually the sponsors of Waterford GA at the moment. I work with them now the last 2.5 years.
Right.
Just working 9 to half 5, working from home as well, so it's not too bad.
So when you're pretending you're online, you're out the back poking the ball against the wall. That's what's going on there, is it? No. See, you have to stay online, because teams gives up on you every 5 minutes. So you're always online. No, look, to be fair, it is a busy. You never really have. You might get 20 or 30 minutes here every so often, but it's a pretty busy enough job. I work on the support side of things, and there's always new things coming in. So I have a team there working with people around the world and working on sites around the world. So it's constantly busy, really. Every kind of day, really. There's new clients coming in. Cognizant of actually taken over the TQS as they bought them out, I suppose, and there's new clients coming in with them, and there's a new kind of cutover coming in January. So yeah, things are just looking up for the company. Really, it's going to get busier and busier. So it's a good company and a good job to be in, you know. Great, brilliant. So at least then with global clients, they're not asking you what happened against Clare yesterday when you're talking to them, which is
that's it exactly, which is a good thing. I try to explain to a few people on my team. I work with a lad from Spain, a lad from England, a lad from America, and then we have a couple of Indian colleagues as well. And trying to explain to them what the game is it takes up some time, really. Some meetings when we're having team meetings. So it's
very good.
It's a good crack.
I was talking to somebody who was holding your hurl, and they told me it was particularly heavy. Now, is that them, or is it particularly heavy?
No, it's particularly heavy. Yeah. Even today, now talking to a few of the lads here, like they were like, Jesus, waiting early kind of thing. And I'm openly known in lads in Waterford to have a heavy hurley, and like to be some lads pick up my hurley in the dressing room, just put it down straight away. They don't even hold it. I just always used the heavy hurley. Like remember when I was playing goal, like, and when I was a teenager, like I just always had a heavy goalkeeper hurley, and I think I ended up just coming out field and having a heavy goalkeeper's hurley then, yeah.
Right. And beyond personal preference, does it make any great difference? Can you strike the sliotar further with a heavier hurl, or do you know why you like it, or it's just always been that way? Don't think about it too much.
Yeah, I don't really think about it too much now. I've always had a heavy enough hurley now, to be honest. But look, if I had no hurleys with me and someone threw me in something else, I'd use it. Like hurleys wouldn't be a massive thing to me. Like I wouldn't even.
You're not one of those lads who
that weigh the hurleys and everything like that. Like I wouldn't weigh my hurleys at all now or anything like that. Like I'm just gonna if I'm giving hurleys, I'm like, yeah, grand, perfect, yeah. No matter.
Grand. You're not one of those that says, oh, this hurl's a gram lighter than it needs to be for me to perform to my optimum. You're a bit more...
No, I won't be like that at all now.
I didn't realise you played in goal. That's just about the most insane position in world sport to play in hurling.
Yeah, I played on goal. Jesus, I played on goal for Watford for Tony Forrest 15 and 16. I came out field then under 17. Yeah, I came out field under 17 then, yeah, and just kind of took off a small bit then, really, like, kind of, I stretched, kind of, I was a chubby enough little child, so stretched and kind of lost a bit of weight, and I was able to, I suppose, get around the field a bit easier, and kind of just took off a small bit from there, yeah.
Okay. Tough position to play. I mean, geez, I don't know, you probably have better insight. How, when balls are flying at any parts of your body, that you're just not in the crouching position is beyond me when it comes to keepers. I loved it. I loved it. Like, I'd openly be saying I can't wait to go back there and goal 10, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years time if I'm not playing senior with the club, go back there and goal junior or something like that, just for a year or two. Let the weight go again.
Oh no, I'll have to keep that down. I'll keep that down the whole time from now on. Can't leave that creep up anymore. No, I loved it. I just loved hitting the ball as hard as long as I possibly could.
But those days are gone now. You have to find your cornerback.
That's true. Yeah, I need to work on that. But our junior B's cornerbacks now, they mightn't be the Sean Finns or the Dahi Burks or the Mikey Butlers of the world, you know. So
get rid.
Yeah. Our sharp puck has to give it back and then go on.
Good man. Davy Fitz coming in. I need to double check years. You weren't. That's way before your time. Dave Fitz's last time. That's 08.
Yeah.
You weren't there as a 10-year-old.
I want the ball, no.
What are your thoughts here? Like, the one thing that everybody knows from the outside, Davy Fitzgerald will bring, especially in year one, is maximum intensity. Burn brightly. He hasn't had a long-term tenure, but it's going to be, however long it lasts, it's going to be full on. So I would think you're anticipating that.
Yeah. Definitely. Like a few of the first words he said to us were, "We're going to train very hard, but we'll have some crack along the way." Like, we're only back, I don't think 10 days or so, and that's literally living up to his word already. Like, the training is very hard, but we're having good crack in the dressing room, out in the field, and afterwards in the dressing room again. Like, there's a good buzz, a good atmosphere around even already. And I know we're only back, but you can just sense that fellas are eager and fellas are buzzing around, and I suppose eager to impress. And eager to rubber stamp their I suppose their place maybe in games in the league and stuff like that. Like, and in the panel.
Well, listen, thank you so much for the time. Great to have you on again and great to catch up. Very best of luck with next season. I guess it's just around the corner. Again, Aussie Gleeson was talking to us with thanks to Air, their new official sponsor, the GA Hurling Senior Championship. 5-year deal starts next year. So again, Aussie, thanks for the time. Best of luck next year. Keep it going.
Thanks very much.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.